Man, I love that intro. Jericho Green hanging out with you guys once again. This is Green's House. You know how we do. You know what we do. We talk to amazing people with interesting stories to tell. Today is no different. I'm very happy to have him on. 25 years in the radio business in the Bay Area. I'm excited. As you know, I have a bit of a radio background myself, not as extensive as his, but I got a little one. So it's going to be nice to talk to somebody who's familiar with the biz and tell some great stories. So let's get started. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in my man, Morris Knight. What up, man?
What's happening, Jericho? What's happening?
Hey, not much. I'm so happy to have you here, man. I've been following your social media since you came across my radar. And shout out to my man Biz.
Yeah,
who put this together, who made this happen. What a great dude.
Good dude.
You hear the phrase, when God made him or her, he broke the mold. But
yeah.
There's no other Biz out there on the planet. And I mean that in the best way possible. Great dude.
I've known him for quite a long time, Yeah, he was back when he was in San Francisco, with Wild and all that, So yeah, we were in the same building for a long time. And the impression I'm always left with Biz was that just the biggest, most genuine smile on his face. Just a good-hearted dude. I always loved being around that guy. In the last few years, I haven't been able to be around him as much, but thank goodness for social media. It's just like, man, even though I haven't been in his physical presence in a few years, that's one of the good things about social media, is that it brings good folks back together.
It does. And, there's not a lot of good side. Sometimes it seems like there's not a lot of good side to social media, but that's definitely it. Same with me. I moved from the Central Coast up to the Sacramento area about 2 years ago. So I haven't seen, I haven't been in his physical presence either, but social media, text messages and stuff like that, we keep in touch. Great dude. He made this happen here, so I'm very happy for it. Here, Morris. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
So as you guys can hear, like I said, radio, 25 years, great voice. Some people just have that voice, man. Some people just have a voice that you like to hear, that you like to listen to. Some of us have a face for radio, but other people have a voice for radio. So very cool to have you here, man. So let's get it started. Let's give the people what they want. That's what the OJs told me to do.
That's right. Got to give the people what they want. Okay, Jericho, I got to tell you right off, man. I am self-diagnosed ADD, so be careful the things you throw out there, because that's where I'll go.
Yeah, same here, man. Today I was doing a live and I saw a comment that somebody made in the comment section, man, and I was off on this crazy stuff. I don't remember what my point was, but it's out there, man. It's on the internet now.
Yeah.
But where and when did you grow up?
Let's see here. I was actually born in Vallejo, but was raised in San Diego until my early teenage years, when my stepfather's job moved us to Northern California. And in the mid 80s, I spent my last 2 years of high school with my dad in Sacramento. I hadn't really got any time with my dad much in my childhood, my real dad. Shout out to my to my Marine stepdad, Rob. Awesome guy. Interesting childhood thanks to him. And a lot of the ways that I think about certain things has a lot to do with the way that he dealt with me and my brother in particular. But so graduated high school in Sacramento in the mid 80s. Started my radio career in 1990 in Sacramento. So I guess I've been in radio totally 33 years, but I've been in the Bay for the last 25 years. I started off at an alternative rock station there in Sacramento in 1990. 2 years after that, I moved to Stockton, where I worked for a CHR radio station for 7 years. That was 97.7 and 98.3 KWIN. Stayed there for 5 years. And then in 1997, got the call from San Francisco that they wanted me to come out here to the big city. And what a trip, man. It's not like I had the world's most successful childhood, if you will. I wasn't like, an athlete or anything like that. That was my brother. I was always into music. I was always in band, marching band, jazz band. But that just meant I was just your average, typical band geek, literally. So when I get out to the big city, if you will, San Francisco, it was just totally mind blowing for me, because I'd made it in a situation where I really didn't think I wouldn't. It just surprised me because I was not one of those people who I wasn't one of those little kids who lived next to the radio because I wanted to hear what funny thing the radio DJ was going to say. I was that kid sitting by the radio to hit pause and
Oh
record.
man. Oh man. You know what? Real quick, man. I remember one of the things I prided myself in when I was a DJ was I always tried to remember what it was like to be calling the radio station to request a song or being that kid with record and pause press waiting for the DJ. Come on, man, let's get to the song.
Yeah.
But when you get in the business and they would talk all the way up to where the words would start. You wanted a little intro.
Yep.
And they would talk all the way up to when the words started. But once you're in the business and you realize there's a method to the madness that those beats playing in the song are called a ramp. You're supposed to talk
right
up until the words start. So, and I, especially if I was doing a late night shift and I was doing like the love jams or something, there's a girl and the love jams come on at 10 and the disc jockey, you've heard, this is the 500th phone call from a kid with a voice like that who wants to hear this song.
Yeah.
But I always tried to be cool and never be annoyed.
Yeah.
Because that kid doesn't know. That kid doesn't know that they're the 500th kid. They're thinking about themselves, the girl they like, or whoever, the song they want to hear. So I always tried to be cool and make them feel like, they're special. Like I'd act like that was the first time I had gotten requests for that song. So something you said, you mentioned your stepdad, the Marine.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you worked in an alt rock station, 1990, right before grunge. So, alt rock, metal, all kind of everything under that umbrella. It has kind of an air of, middle finger to the system.
Right.
Long hair, loud music, dress how I want, ripped jeans, whatever, all of the above.
Right.
So was there a bit of rebellion in getting into radio because I'm sure Marine, there was some rigidity, there was some structure, there was some discipline there. Do you think maybe part of that was kind of rebelling against your stepdad and his rules getting into not only radio, but rock music?
No, not at all. My stepdad was really motivating and encouraging in the sense of whatever it was I wanted to do. It was, I also play bass guitar, and so whenever I talked about making music, he's all, you got to get a bass guitar. I never actually went out and bought a bass guitar. But my best friend Carl did. And that's how we started our first band. He actually happened to have one. And I naturally was good at playing it, at like 15 or 16 years old. And so, just stuff like that. My stepdad would kind of pick up on, I don't know, just the naturalness, if you will, of what I could bring to the world, that I could make people around me happy and also myself happy as well. So no, there was think about the late 80s, Jericho. So I mean, you've got crazy ways of dressing going on. I'm all about that, right? So when your number one favorite dude in life is Prince,
okay,
I'm gonna leave it right there.
Yeah.
So it gets crazy, right? But what I loved about Prince, though, is that as wild as he looked, and some of his lyrics were, much of his lyrics were kind of risque for the time. Mm-hmm. What I loved about Prince was that he was a great hero for a teenager like me to have. And what I mean by that is, like, I am a musician and I want to, be the best at it that I can be, right? He was a great guy to be able to look up to, even though this is someone I hadn't met at that time. Also, I liked his moral foundation, if you will. The way he and remember, when you're 15 years old and your dude is Prince, you're nothing he does is wrong, right? At the end of the day, I loved his moral foundation, and what I interpreted that to be is, hey, it was all about being cool, being with the girls, no drinking, no drugs, you're never gonna read about a scandal, that Prince is involved in back in the day. So people loved him because he was a master at everything he did. So that was something that was encouraged upon me when, when my stepfather saw that I was going that road. His whole thing was like, he was glad that I was into something. He was glad that my brother was this total athlete. He was glad that that we weren't just boring kids looking for trouble to get into. There was we certainly had, we certainly, saw some of the ways that's a few of our cousins went, and some of the kids in the neighborhood as well. And thankfully my brother and I just, that wasn't our jam at all. It was all about just following your passion. And so Rob was very motivating in that regard. Go do you, man, wherever it is. But him being the Marine that he was, but get it done with passion, know about it, do it. If McDonald's is your thing, stop wasting those people's time. You're making everybody look like idiots, mostly yourself, because they're going to be there, because they're going to do their thing, but you got to go do yours somewhere else. So alternative rock radio at that time, I got into that because I was already into that kind of music. Yeah, I was already into Depeche Mode, The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Erasure, and this is right when Nirvana hit. This is literally right when they hit, so you got Nirvana just like literally 2 months before Nirvana showed up on the scene the way that they did with that Nevermind album. Hair rock and roll was still happening. Poison still ruled the world, Winger and all those guys, right? And all the hair band stuff. They showed up, and dude, it seemed like the next day that stuff was done. And Quad was all over it at that time. They jumped right on the Nirvanas, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, Cake, all of that. So it was a great time for me to be in radio. It was funny though, because in 1991, the people that I worked around did not know a lot of black guys that were into that kind of music. And it wasn't that they were, it just is what it is. They're like, oh wow, you know about this stuff. I'm like, yeah. Again, when you're a band geek, you're gonna be into all kinds of music for the most part. Just like if you're an athlete, maybe you play football, but you still pay attention to basketball. You still pay attention to baseball and all the rest of it. So long answer to your question. No, it wasn't a rebel move. It was, if anything, the opposite. It was me just diving into me. I was always told that, hey, it's nice to make a lot of money if you can make it, but don't let that be the sole motivating factor. Get your rent paid, get your car insurance, insured, whatever, try and get some health insurance, but do what you love, man. Not just do what you like, do what you love. And if you're good enough at it, the money will come.
That's great, man. And it really shows that a powerful male influence, a father who's in tune with his kids and cares and wants them to be successful in life, but doing something that they love to be successful. That's great. That's a measurable shout out to Rob. That's a great thing. Now, you mentioned Prince, and I kick myself in the ass every time I see this video of Prince. I can't remember when it was, maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. But Prince is on stage with Tom Petty and Eric Clapton's son and some other people, some other heavy hitters, right? And so they're singing Still My Guitar Gently Weeps. Yeah. And they bring out Prince for a guitar solo. Now, I grew up, you're a few years older than me, but I know who Prince is. I've heard the songs, Kiss, Doves Cry, all the hits, right? I've heard those. I know Prince can play a guitar. I know that. I know Prince can sing. I know he can play a piano. Yeah. But I didn't know that. Prince gets out there and it'll give you goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah. About 2.5 minutes long. He just shreds that guitar, does all kinds. It's almost like he was making the guitar sing for him. Like he didn't want to sing. I'm going to make this guitar sing. Yeah. And to have Tom, and it wasn't Eric Clapton himself, but it's his son. I'm sure he's been in the studio and his dad showed him a thing or two about the guitar. Right. Tom Petty, these dudes are standing there looking at each other like, what? Prince is amazing. So I'll ask you this. Favorite Prince song?
Oh, Jericho. When I was a teenager, I would have said When Doves Cry because that movie, and then that song and that video and the lyrics of that song really, really, really spoke to me on a personal level. The lyrics made me think of my mom and my dad, quite frankly. And I just dug it. I just dug the simplicity of the song. In fact, I remember the very first time I heard the song come on the radio, though. Oh, I got the new one from Prince. I'm already the world's biggest Prince fan. You know, I'm already all about 1999, the whole album. That's my favorite Prince album. I can come right out and say that. 1999 is my favorite Prince album. Picking a song, though, picking one, I can't.
Is it possible? I was going to say, if it's even possible to do. I mean,
you know, and a lot of people who are into Prince will kind of answer that way, and it's easy to feel cynical about that kind of an answer. I can give you a few songs. I can give you a few songs that are just must-haves for me, and they're not all they're not all the hits. You know, so right off, "Adore" from Sign of the Times. I think that's that's my second favorite Prince slow jam. My first would be "Do Me Baby," but that has a lot to do with the time when that came out, you know, and me having the vinyl and just looking at it for hours and hours and listening to that song hours and hours and just being blown away by what he's saying, with the stuff he was saying in that song. I just, you know, it comes from the Controversy album, and yeah, so it was mind blowing for you know, an 11-year-old, 12-year-old to be listening to.
Oh wow,
you know,
young.
Yeah. So but favorite Prince songs include "Adore," "When Doves Cry," you know, the long version. I can't stand the chopped up version. I love you know, "All the Critics Love You in New York," which is a synth wave punk song in attitude to me. "Controversy" is another super duper big favorite of mine by Prince. Moving into the 90s a little bit, and "God Created Woman" is my favorite song by Prince in the 90s, because I love how Prince always found a way to weave God into what he was into musically. You know, and Prince was admittedly one of these people who would say that I am this way because of God. You know, God gave me this blessing, you know, always giving it back, and I always dug that. I mean, even when he was like crazy risque, wearing some madness on stage,
assless pants, the whole nine.
Yeah, man, the whole bit, you know. But still found a way to bring God back to it, and I think that, you know, if you can do that, you know, sincerely, and I definitely believe he was being sincere. It allows people to look at it in a bigger light, you know. So when you get to, you know, songs like "In God Created Woman," I just love the fact that how much he celebrated what a gift woman is to man. A woman is to man. I just, and to have one of the greatest musicians to ever walk the planet Earth say that, again, it just spoke to me. It just at that time in my early 20s when that song came out, and even to this day, it again points to his moral foundation that I was always attracted to. You know, it made me want to be a better dude, both as a musician, as a member of society, as a member of you know, my family, my friends, representing all of these people. But yeah, I just thought that he was just, you know, the top of it all like that. So yeah, I can't pick one song, man. I'll make you a mixtape, Jericho. I'll make you a mixtape. Right.
Please, man. And you know what? Somebody who's as big a fan of Prince as you are, I can see how it'd be difficult to just pick one, you know, like, because you'd be leaving so many behind.
You know, it would be easier if there was, like, you know, your favorite Prince party jam, your favorite Prince slow jam, your favorite Prince song that kind of made, you know, some kind of a, you know, emotion happen for you. When my best friend Carl died, "Sometimes It Snows in April" was on repeat for a long time. You know, going through that process of losing your best friend of life, who probably was the most influential person in my musical life that I ever had. And unfortunately, he passed away several years ago. So, you know, "Sometimes It Snows in April" is just one of those songs that when you lose someone like that in that way, you go to that song, you're just like, dang, you know, you gotta let that whole process happen, you know. And that's a great song to have on in the background, where you just, bawling your eyes out, if you will.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, man.
Thank you.
But music is so powerful, man. I've always been such a big fan of music. Certain songs just grasp itself to you, especially in a situation like that, or on the other end, something very happy. I
Yeah.
remember my mom. We had the stereo system in the living room with the 4-foot speakers, and laying on the floor listening to the Thriller album with the headphones on,
yeah.
Knowing that it's going to scare the hell out of me because I was a little kid.
Yeah.
The footsteps walking on the wooden floor, Vincent Price. But music is so damn powerful. Music can change your mood. Music brings people together. Music, it's just such a powerful thing. I think if I had to choose one Prince song, it would be "Sexy MF." Because like you mentioned, it's not one of the mainstream hits. You're not going to hear that on the radio. But that was almost like if James Brown and Prince got together and did a song, that's what it's going to sound like. A lot of horns, a lot of participation from the background singers, not just singing, but sexy, shaking that ass. It was like a back and forth. It's an amazing song. What a great song. So I think that would have to be my favorite Prince song. But then again, depending on the mood, where I'm at, Prince just had a song for everything. And
That's
speaking
right.
of, how did you feel when he passed? Because I remember watching it on TV. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that Prince was gone. And after Michael Jackson, that was crazy too. But I was, what?
When the day Prince died, I started getting flooded with texts because all of my friends all the way back to high school knew that he was my number one dude of life. I mean, Jericho, I could show you pictures of myself in high school that are just laughable right now. But Prince is to blame. Bottom line, it's all his fault.
Yeah.
Remind me to tell you a funny story about it being Prince's fault and my dad.
Uh-oh.
But when Prince died, that was couldn't believe it, man. Just unbelievable. I mean, everything about it was ridiculous to me. I mean, all the way, even his age, 57, you hear about 27, you might hear about 50, you might hear about, too young, 45 or 75 or whatever. 57 was a weird number. And then the picture that TMZ flashed up on their, because that's where everyone went to make to they were the ones you went to try and verify that kind of thing. And even the picture that they showed, I believe the picture was a shot from when he did the Super Bowl, which still hands down the greatest Super Bowl performance in all Super Bowl history.
Agreed.
So Prince would probably be the third person who represented the 80s to me in my personal life. That really, when I get really sentimental about it, my grandpa, my grandpa Kermit, and then my stepdad got me to my teenage years. But it was my dad who, there was a reason why him and my mom were not together. And I would find that out once I went to go live with him. But through all my dad's faults, he still found a way to still, put all the details in that my grandpa or that my stepdad couldn't for whatever reason. My dad was just, was just putting putting all the finishing touches on who I was to be. And I have so many fond memories of the house that he lived in, crazy memories too, actually. The neighborhood that, he lived in a neighborhood where all my lifelong friends that I had met in that neighborhood. I didn't have many of the tight friends when I lived with my mom, my stepdad, that I would have when I went to go live with my father. So in 2014, my dad, early 2014, in early 2012, my dad passed. 2 years after that, my best friend of life, Carl, passed, who lived around the corner from my dad. That's how I met him. And then Prince dies many, many years later. And it was just a huge blow because I was when I think about everything that makes me who I am, it comes from that era. I mean, even the way I think politically, blame it on the 80s, man. because I can easily say that stuff wasn't. We were all the same. Everybody was the same thing, and no one was talking this stuff that that they're talking now. You know, it was not a problem back then. How the heck, 40 years later, is it a problem now? We all loved it then, and now it's a problem. I digress. You know, moving. You know, being. So when Prince dies, it just felt like, man, I've been kicked in the stomach for a third time. You know, these three people in my life that really just, you know, in one way or another really shaped what the 80s meant to me. That when, you know, a specific period of time in my life, my dad, my best friend, and then Prince, it just seemed really bad. And it was funny because at that time when that went down, any other time I would have been on the air. But at that time, 98.1 Kiss FM had just flipped the format to like an easy listening format or something like that. They had me on hold though. The iHeart did not let me go. They had me on hold for a while while they while they were in the process of building an all 80 station. So that was cool. But so I'm sitting there in my home studio, and I see this come across my screen. I'm 100% all by myself, except for all these texts that are coming at me. And I'm, you know, it was one of the most surreal moments of my entire life. You know, you lose family members, and that's the thing. I don't know Prince personally at all. You know, I was jealous of all the musicians that came on behind him, you know, or after his heyday, they got to meet him, and yet, you know, I was in my mind his biggest fan, and I'm a musician and this and that, and never got the chance to work with him on that level. I did meet him one time, but it was very, very brief. But yeah, you know, I felt like a part of my childhood was gone for good when Prince, the third dude like that, just kind of when he died like that. And then I had to, you know, be careful to not go into much to, you know, defend whatever people wanted to speak about how he died or whatever. I definitely have my own opinions on that, and I think there's way more than to his passing that we know right now, or maybe that we'll ever know, and that's probably on purpose. And I don't know, maybe in some way that's probably a good thing, but you know, when your greatest hero of life passes away, you know, a part of your innocence goes, a part of your childhood goes. But you know, such is life. You know, now you get to, it's one more reason why you got to accept these things like a man and move on and grow from them. And it's really weird, Jericho, because sometimes I think about, you know, the climate that we're in right now. You know, okay, so your hero is Prince. Prince is a worldwide celebrity. A lot of celebrities today are using their platform to, for the very first time in the history of mankind, speak on things that their publicists would have never let them speak on back in the day. And too many musicians and celebrities that I look up to are using that platform to, and I don't care what side you're on, just, man, you know, we didn't really come here for that, you know.
Exactly.
So this is a weird thing that goes through my mind to this day, man. It's like, you know, I would be brokenhearted if Prince were alive and feeling the need to use his platform to speak on some of these issues that just, first of all, in my opinion, celebrities on that level could never begin to really understand what it's like to be, as I say, down here on the ground. You know, you don't pump your own gas. You're not, you know, walking around, you know, the store filling your own cart. You know, you're not doing any of that stuff. You know, you don't know what a loaf of bread costs. You don't know how high gas is. You never see that stuff. And some of you guys are popping off with that. That's the one thing. And I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything, but that's, at least my heroes aren't doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately they're not even here. And I know that sounds really bad to say it like that, but you know, just like, man, like my heroes get to remain totally clean from all of that speak forever, you know, because you know, it's even the same with me, you know, on a much lower scale. You know, we can have our thoughts and our opinions, but sometimes that stuff isn't for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, to answer your question, it was a bad day.
In a nutshell, it was bad.
It was a bad day.
Yeah, you know, you're right. It's like there's like different doctors, there are different specialists that do different things for you. So you go to that specialist to get that particular thing. I don't want you to start telling me about the other part of me. I'm here to see you about this. So give that to me. I'll pay, whatever it costs, but this is what I want from you. So please give it to me. Yeah. And if I want something else, I'll go that direction. But please just give me what I paid for. Thank you very much. I got the rest. Trust me. I got it. Just give me what I paid you to give me. And yeah, that's lost on a lot of people. And as you mentioned, at one time your publicist was like, no, but now it's you got to, but I don't know anything about it. You got to say something, but I don't care. You got to say something, because not saying something is saying something. So right. Say something.
Right.
If that even makes sense. In
a very sad way, that makes sense.
Yeah, very sad. But you said Prince, his fault, your dad story.
We was being serious, Jericho. It was Halloween time, 1985-ish, and I was, like I said, all into dressing like Prince and whatnot. When our interview's over, I'll share with you a photo. So, and my dad was a macho guy. He was not military at all. His dad was, but he was not. He was a guy that just was kind of led by his own wits. Really smart guy. I think my dad probably had a genius IQ. And I think that genius IQ, while it served him well, also was probably part of his undoing. He just too smart for the room, So I don't think I was the rebel. My dad was, though. So macho guy, mid-80s, this and that, and Prince is out there, influencing young guys like myself. But my dad had a limit to that. But I pushed that limit. I mean, like Jericho, it's Sacramento, and I'm wearing trench coats to school, in 80-degree weather, 90-degree weather. Jerry Curl juice dripping all over the place. I've got my bandana scarf around my neck, and it purple. Everything was purple. Spiky, bracelets and stuff. Big hoop earring. The whole bit. I was Prince for all intents and purposes. The big round glasses. And I don't know why I waited. I must have known. I don't know why I waited till Halloween to pull this. I must have known that maybe my dad wouldn't approve, but I was like, well, let me try it here, and this will be my out. And and that way, if it goes sideways, well, I can just kind of, well, Dad, hey, Dad, it's Halloween. Come on, bro, calm down. Well, if I'm already dressed like all that, Jericho, what am I missing in the world of dressing like Prince?
He could take it, some other direction, heels, lace, things of that nature.
Dad was cool with that. Dad was cool with the lace, believe it or not.
You already said you didn't wear the pants with the ass out, so
I didn't say
that off the list. Oh, maybe I wanted you to say that. Maybe that's what I wanted. Uh-oh.
I promise it was not the ass.
Okay, good. Makeup, hair, he was a bit androgynous at times. That could fly in the face of a masculine, manly man.
Pops was not good when my stepmom told him that I left the house with eyeliner and mascara on.
Uh-oh.
And a pound of it. I mean, I went all the way in. I went straight up. Another one of my heroes at the time, Boy George. So if Prince ain't got enough makeup, throw on some Culture Club and you're there. Some David Bowie, you're really there.
Yeah.
So, so I don't realize that I had been seen by my stepmom. And so maybe one of my stepsisters told her, whatever, but I really honestly didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. Second period, high school. Morris, we need to see you in the attendance office. Okay. So I go to the attendance office, and you walk into the main office of the school. You walk into the attendance office to the back. But if you were going to go to the front of the school, you just keep going through that all the way through this office. And there's another door on the other end of it that takes you out to the front. So I get there. Yeah, I'm here. And they're like, yeah, someone needs to see you in the front. And I'm like, well, who? Oh, your dad.
Oh.
I mean, really, Jericho. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just walking. There's no water fountains. There's no napkins. There's nothing for me to. Because if my dad's here and he's only here for one reason, Jericho, I go, walking this green mile toward toward the front of the office. And when I walk out the other door, he's standing right there. And my dad was like rough and tumble. He's all, overalls, ball cap, looking all grimy. And he just takes one look and he's all, follow me. And that's all he said. I follow him out to his big orange work van, and I get in this van. And when I get in the van, there is a mop bucket full of warm, soapy water and a wash rag.
Oh, man. He came prepared.
He gets in there and he's like, get that S off your face right now. Oh. Jericho, my dad, I at the time am 5'11", $165. My dad at that time was 5'11", 365.
Oh, so he was a little bigger than you.
Just a tad. And so a menacing figure. So I'm sitting in his van and I'm getting it all off my face and my eyes. And once I finally got it off, he gave me a towel to dry my face off with. And he's like, you went too far. Don't let that happen again as long as you live. I thought that when I got home that night or after school that this guy was at the very least going to ground me for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. If not, Jericho is the 80s. So, tough dads like that, sometimes when they really disagreed with you, you could get a shove, Yeah. It is what it was. And that's my dad, love him. And it is what it was. But when I got home that afternoon, he's like, you went too far, son. Don't do it again. And that was it. I think he knew that, number one, Jericho was a really good kid. Hey, I'm not out there like my cousins thugging out, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Calling home, nothing like that. I'm a good dude, but I just had this crazy way that I like to dress. And he wasn't with that line being
yeah.
And and besides, I think he realized the punishment had already been administered. Number one, the embarrassment of him showing up to my school like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the horror I had to deal with him being pissed like that and me wondering what's waiting on me when I got home. But nothing happened except for him saying it one more time. Yeah. And I didn't, just okay. All right. Well, now I know where the line is.
Now that line is clear. That line is fluorescent orange painted on the floor. You can see that line in the dark. I will not.
With spikes in the back, so you don't back over them.
Yeah, tire spikes.
Right.
Orange cones with lights on top.
Right.
Here's
Lasers.
The line. Do not cross. And then I think he knew the fact that he showed up, the fact that he brought that bucket. You knew how serious it was, and he felt that. I think he's got the point. I'll reiterate one more time when he gets home. But yeah, and the unknown. The anticipation of death is worse than death itself. Not knowing what's going to happen.
Jericho, real talk, man. I did not, dude. I said he showed up second period, so it's only 9 o'clock, 9 something.
Yeah, he couldn't wait.
I got to get all the way to 2:30 without, maybe I just kill myself. Maybe that's,
that'd be easier. That'd be easier than going home. Yeah, I totally understand that, man. I was a bit talkative in class. We would always get student is a pleasure to have in class, but student talks in class. Student, I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't disrespectful.
Yeah.
I was talkative. I had a captive audience and I was going to maximize it.
Yeah.
And my mom told me my dad was sitting in the background. My dad, he was the muscle. If you don't listen to my mom, she'll get him out of his recliner and it's over.
Yeah.
So because my mom's the negotiator. My dad's a SWAT team.
Oh yeah.
Once they call in the SWAT team, it's flash bangs and ass whoopings for everybody.
Yep.
We're not here to talk. I'm not here to talk. That's what your mother was for.
Yeah.
So she told me, if you get another note, I'm coming up to the school. Right on cue, I get another note sent home from school. My mom said, "Remember what I told you?" So that whole day, I'm everybody that comes in the classroom.
Yeah.
Every shadow, every figure that walks by the classroom.
Yeah.
I'm looking. And my mom waited until the very end of school. we would line up against, I was in second grade, we'd line up against the wall, the teacher would take roll, and then you go play on the playground. When the bell rings, you go to the bus, or it's time to go home. So I figured, even if I'm on the playground, I'll duck and dodge, I'll juke my mom or whatever until I get home, and then just take the ass whooping at home behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But I remember almost getting done, and I hear the familiar sound of my mom's house shoes, like that. She had like the slippers. I heard her slippers. And my mom did this because my mom was a professional woman. She worked at the DMV. She did nursing. My mom was not the type to come out of the house with no rollers in her hair or dressed all crazy, but she did that to prove a point. She did that to turn up the embarrassment just a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
And so she's coming down one side of the hallway. I take off down the other. I'll meet her at the principal's office. The principal will come to my rescue because you don't whoop kids in school anymore. He'll get between. No, you need to handle this at home. Right. So I get to the principal's office. I walk in there. His name was Mr. Allen. And I actually keep in touch with him when I go back home sometimes. Great dude. Right. But I come in his office first, and I'm like, my mom's coming. She comes in like 30 seconds later. She's on my heels. She comes in there after me. He looks at my mom. He looks at me and says, "Oh, I see you have something
you got
discuss." He gets up, turns off his lamp, grabs his briefcase and stuff. He's out. So it's just me and my mom. Dang. He closed the door behind him. My mom gave me customer service right there in the principal's office.
The time it
made me ride the bus home. She didn't even give me a ride home. I ride the bus home.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say that was the last note that was ever sent home, but that was the last note of that year that was sent home. So I understand the seriousness of having your parents come up to the school, and you don't realize that as a kid. You don't realize what they stepped away from to come get you at school. They were at work.
Yeah.
They were doing something, and they had to come up to the school because of something that we did wrong. Mine was more, wrong in the traditional sense. I was misbehaving in class. Right. Yours to your dad was wrong enough for him to pull himself away from work with his bucket of soap and water.
Yeah.
And drive a point home to you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he did that. He did that very well. But it's almost a respect thing. You respected that he didn't flip out and kill you like you thought he was, and he respected you enough to, we'll leave it at that. He took it off his face.
And my dad had like you, Jericho, I'm a good kid. The teachers dig me. I'm a good guy, funny, not quite class clown, but surely singing backgrounds, doing the harmony class clown. Believe that. We get that same what they call it, progress report.
Yeah.
And so Pops had to do some barking, because like I said, he was a really smart guy, so he got really good grades in school. So, me pulling C's and, C minuses and all that was not his jam at all, man. He couldn't understand it, especially the fact that I did not look like someone who, could not do better than C's. And just not doing my homework, just that kind of stuff, just normal dumb 80s kids.
Was that you throughout school? Like just, the academics just wasn't your thing.
That's a great question. I was always really naturally good at it, Jericho. I took it for granted. I just, like when it comes to doing, when they're teaching you how to do math, it came to me really, really easy. When when it's English and of course being a songwriter that I would become later on, I liked reading and I liked writing. Math was never my strongest, but the basics, all the basic stuff, yeah, no problem. So my biggest problem was not getting the homework done, or at least on time. Not, it wasn't a situation where I couldn't do it. I wanted to go to school because that's where my friends were. That's where band was. That's where the girls were later on. It was not because, you need proper education so you know how to do whatever so you can go to college. And dude, that was what am I going to need college for? I'm going to be a rock star. What? Like Prince didn't go to college, all my heroes did not do that. They just, study their music, and that's what I thought my life was going to be. So I didn't take it serious, but I could, I'd have done way better than I did. but
Mhm.
I'm doing good enough for average American kid. I'll be all right.
Well, I mean, and with your plan, we got a band, we work at the radio station, bing, bang, boom. You don't got time for no damn college.
Right.
Just
Gone with
let's
that.
just cut the crap and get right into the music industry.
Right.
I like the way you think, man. I like
Yeah.
that. So, starting radio in Sacramento first, correct? Right after high school, going to Stockton. And for people who don't know, Stockton is, how do you describe Stockton?
South, about 45 miles south of Sacramento, about 85 miles east of San Francisco.
Mhm.
So,
and nothing like San Francisco,
and nothing like San Francisco. And especially we're talking about the 90s. It is its own little. There was a lot of influence coming from San Francisco and from Sacramento, especially by the time I got there in '92. But it is off the map for the people that live in San Francisco or any of the major cities. It's like, what? It's like, in fact, the first time I ever even stopped my parents lived in the Bay Area when I went to go live with my dad to finish up high school. I never even needed to stop in Stockton for gas. I can just get straight from Sacramento to the Bay Area and back, without having to stop in Stockton for a halfway fill up, if you will, in a car that got terrible gas mileage, even though it was only a 4-cylinder at the time. But it was just like kind of a town that the people that lived there were used to it, and then by the time when I finally moved there, it had a really bad reputation. I remember when I was telling people I was moving to Stockton, they're like, whoa, dude, they got like the murder capital of the world or of California at that time, and gang this and gang that. And a lot of that stuff concerned me at that time. But they were the ones that were offering me the full-time radio job. I started off at Quad, but I could never get past just being weekender and, van driver and CD 6-pack hander outer and,
street team.
Yeah. Street team guy. Exactly. The banners and this and that, and that was all valuable to me. I don't want to put that out there like I'm trying to discredit that. That was all part of everything I learned about everything that I would love about radio and what I do now. As a radio personality, all of that stuff was necessary to prepare me for where I am now, where I've been for the last 25 years. So all that, I don't want to make it seem like like I'm dissing that part of the process, if you will, but. Moving to Stockton meant that, or wanting a full-time job in radio meant that I'm going to have to go to a smaller market if I want to go to a place where all the more seasoned radio personalities aren't trying to be. And every time something would open up at Quad, some dude with just way more experience than I would just swoop in and snatch it up. Even if it was just like the late night shift. Overnights was cool. But even late night, so going to Stockton, well, no one's trying to move here. Market 85.
Yeah.
No one's trying to move here on purpose. And certainly no one's getting on a plane to move here, so you might have some local dudes. So it was I almost said it was a humbling experience, but it was just, man, get in where you fit in. Even I tell young people about that story even to this day. Go where you're needed, Don't be staying in the Bay Area where you can't afford to be here and you're complaining that you're not getting raises and stuff like that. I understand you're worth it, but just, hey, for whatever reason, you're not getting that. Maybe you don't, one of the many great things my father told me, don't be afraid to move. You never know what's around the corner. Don't just be so stuck in the place that you're familiar with. Go ahead and step out, especially if you're stepping out towards something that you're going to love once you get there, as far as what you're going to be doing to make a living for yourself. So yeah, Stockton was rough and tumble, but like I quickly found out, like many cities, the reputation that Stockton had at that time, and even to this day, you're talking about one very small part of Stockton that's making the news. One very, very small part. The rest of it it looked like Sacramento, like a mini Sacramento to me.
Yeah, it's a little smaller.
Yeah, so I got used to it very quickly.
I drove through Stockton with my family. I think it was like a week before Halloween, this past October. And I was surprised at how clean it was.
Yeah.
Like when you get to a certain part, like you said, a certain part, yeah. But driving through, and Stockton was a lot bigger than I thought. but the
Yeah.
GPS, it took us basically through the middle of Stockton, and it was so clean. I'm talking, I don't know if we just came there after the street sweepers, but it was clean. And, thinking of, when people say California now, that might not be the first thing that pops into your mind.
Right.
So being that it was so clean, I was very surprised. But going from Stockton to San Francisco, you made it.
Yeah.
As my dad would say, you're shitting in tall cotton now. You're in the big city.
Yeah.
You're in the big city. So kind of how was it when you first moved to San Francisco, coming from Stockton, small town? People might call it a drive-through town because it's not going to catch your eye. Maybe
Right.
the Navy Yard off of the bridge.
Yeah.
That's about it. So what was it like going from that much smaller market, having cut your teeth a little bit, and finally making it to the big city?
In Stockton, you've got 99 on the east, and then you've got 5 on the west, north and south. And when you're on those highways, all you just see, I don't know if that's farmland or just desert land. I don't know what that is, but it's really flat and very, very boring.
Mm-hmm.
And as you continue on I-5 south to 205 west through Tracy, up and over down into the Trial Valley, 580 west. And then you finally, an hour later, get to the Bay Bridge, and you're on the Bay Bridge. It's Saturday evening, and it's getting dark, and all in the city skyscrapers, the lights are all lit up, and you're looking at that, and a week ago you were on the radio in Stockton, and now you're going to do your first Saturday night shift to be in San Francisco. The first thing that popped in my head is, I'm really glad that I was one to listen to information that was given to me by anyone about what it took to become, for this moment to be here. I wished my grandfather were there. He had passed some years ago, before that moment that I was in at that time when I was crossing the Bay Bridge. I'm just looking around going, this is awesome. This is great. I did not, it's funny because for a while I didn't really have those aspirations, so to speak. It's not like, oh yeah, a lot of radio DJs want to move around until they get to, New York or San Francisco or LA or Chicago, one of the bigger markets. Quite frankly, I was actually pretty content in Stockton. And basically what it was, I become a really big fish in a really small pond. In the 5 years that I was there, a lot of great things happened to me there in Stockton, of all places, Jericho. I mean, at one point, my name recognition in that market had become so great that, I'd go to do a live broadcast, if you will. And hey, yeah, Morris is going to be at Sherwood Mall. So I'd show up to where with the K-Win van or whatever, and they've got my jock photo and my name on the big marquee, on the mall sign that, right off of Pacific Avenue. I'm looking at that. I'm like, well, I'm good, and it's the 90s and it's getting all the attention. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
So
all the attention. Yeah. I understand.
Okay.
But disc jockeys at the time were huge, man. Huge.
They were in San Francisco, in my mind. My program director at that time had told me, though, that, I'm a lot bigger than I'm giving myself credit for at that time, as far as name recognition or whatever that means. I mean, the 90s, man, I mean, radio DJs were rock stars.
Telling you.
I never really saw myself like that because I didn't think what I was doing, like, I wasn't, the guys that were rock stars, they were doing next level things on the radio as far as their personality, and their brand and the environment that they just happen to be in. So when you think of, Rennell, when you think of Michael Erickson, when you think of JV, rest in peace. When you think of, these large, way back in the day, I don't know, you're probably too young to remember a guy named Rick Chase, you know.
Yeah, Rick Chase. I remember when Mancow Muller was on K-Non, where I used to live.
Oh wow, okay,
Salinas, so
exactly.
yeah. Jennifer
Okay,
Wilde, yeah.
all those guys had personalities that were almost bigger than the records that were playing. You know, um, I was never that kind of DJ. I was the midday guy that was going to be putting a lot of callers on the air, but I was not going to be doing or say anything like zany that would make people go, "Oh my God, did you hear voice on radio? Oh my God, I can't believe you said, oh, he's my fan." You know, I was going to be the guy that was. Wow, he's a really cool guy on the radio. Wow, yeah, I met Morrison, at the mall or at the grand opening of such and such, and really cool guy. I won some tickets to the concert from him, and this and that kind of guy, and relating to people on a level on the radio. And I guess I still kind of do that to this day. I just kind of relate to people where they are. One of my favorite things is still putting calls on the radio, not necessarily in the in the sense of trying to shock anyone, but maybe there's something that I'll say or have a conversation with someone where something is said that makes other people kind of lean in and take something positive from it. So to your point about radio DJs being, larger than life in the 90s, you're absolutely right about that. Guys from Sacramento that were at the CHR station there, just larger than life. And
Yeah.
I admired them, but I never really aspired to be that because that was a whole nother level. That was a whole other level of, and Jericho, I mean, I do my radio show, I do my shift, I do what I love to do about it, but I was not a person that was bleeding that kind of thing as far as needing to be a radio rock star, and I'm willing to, pull any kind of, zany stunt to get written about in the paper at the time, get people talking about just some crazy, sensational thing that I've done. I was one that was more, hey, I'll pick my fans up one at a time over the course of time, and I kind of ended up where a lot of them were. It took me a little longer to get there, because when I got off the radio, I'd go back to playing my music, creating music, writing music. When these guys get off the radio, they go home and they're trying to prepare their next breaks. And that's what made those kind of guys, those kind of DJs, as popular and successful and quite wealthy actually, as they were. I just didn't have that kind of aspiration to do that.
Yeah. And that's because I don't think a radio station needs everybody to be like that.
Right.
So I think the radio station needs those guys when they need them, and then they need guys more like yourself when they need the middays. That's perfect because you're there. The morning show, that's when you find, hey, it's 15 to the top of the hour, honk, honk, all that crazy stuff. I remember Mancow shut down the Bay Bridge, I think it was, to get a haircut. That was his big thing.
Or was that Chewy?
I want to say it was Mancow. I could be wrong, but I want to say it was him because he went from our radio station and then up to the Bay Area, and I think he went to Chicago after that. But
right. I think it was Chewy that did that.
You're there. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm the expert. I'm not on that particular story, but I think that was freaking Chewy who did that.
But one of like the morning shows, I remember if you get close enough to the Bay Area, you would get Wild 94.9.
Yeah.
And then when people would call, it'd be like Wild 94.9, like was it
JV Elvis?
Was it the Doghouse?
Yeah, the Doghouse.
Yeah. What? And they all say what at the same time. Wow. They all had their shtick, man, and it was so cool. And being a kid, in the 90s and stuff like that, man, we were talking earlier about grunge, and you saw it from a different standpoint. You were already out of high school, you were into the radio business, you were a jock. But at that time, I was a kid, and even though I wasn't in the biz, I still remember that someone turning the lights off on hair bands like that.
Yeah.
And if you had anything to do with hair bands, man, you were admonished, you were clowned.
Yeah.
You were old school. It was like what happened to disco.
Yeah.
One night, everybody's doing coke off of some girl's body parts.
Yeah.
Next day, man, that stuff's whack. Disco's horrible. And same thing happened to the hair bands, man. It really did. But what a great time. I think the 80s are my favorite decade. Music, movies, television, commercials, it didn't matter. I think the 80s just wins hands down. Even though I was going through my adolescence in the 90s, I was a teenager in the 90s. That was cool, but if given a choice, I'm going back to the 80s every time because everything. And of course, I might be looking at it through rose-colored glasses, and we had our times, things going on in the 80s that weren't good.
No,
but damn, the 80s were nice, man.
No, Jericho, that's not true. You're not looking at the 80s through rose-colored glasses. They were great. They were just straight up Jack Bone sober. The 80s were great. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, it definitely was a decade of the toughest people ever in American history. And what I mean by that is that, you're only a single generation away from the civil rights movement, where things were ridiculously different. I remember one of the things that used to go through my head, and maybe it's something that my father said, not to discourage me from it, but that's a weird way to put it. Some of the girlfriends I had in high school were white, and you were talking about the mid 80s. Well, it's only 20 years ago, mid 60s, where that's not happening. That's just not happening. And
on a legal level.
Exactly.
The law.
And there were things, and I remember when I'd be walking down the street with my girlfriend, white girl, whatever. And I remember we passed white people on the street, sometimes older white people. And I just remember it would kind of go through my head, what's going through their head. And Jericho, I'm telling you, 100% of the time, they never bat an eye. Now, I'm not saying that everyone was down with that, but they were just, I don't know. They knew I didn't care whatever they thought. So why go there? And I remember dating girls back in the day that were like, oh, my dad, he's not really keen on, me dating black guys, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, hey, okay, whatever. Next, but I wasn't going to get mad at her dad for feeling that way. I don't know why I thought the way that I thought, Jericho. It never bothered me. It just never freaking bothered me. I get into these discussions with a dear friend of mine that I went to high school with, who tells me about, some of the stuff he's heard his dad say. So today, if his dad were alive, his dad would be about 78 years old. So you can imagine if it's the mid 80s, his dad's already almost 40 years old or whatever. And he's got certain opinions about other races. And Dennis would tell me that. And it was weird because, well, whenever I'm around your dad, he seems cool to me. He's like, well, no, he likes you, So I'm like, so he just generally doesn't like black people, but he likes me. He's like, well, I wouldn't say that. He just makes these comments sometimes. And I'm offended because, well, you're my friend who's black. And I'm like, well, if he's treating me cool, what? I don't get it. I don't understand why we got to make this big deal. Jericho, I'm like freaking 40 years ahead of my time when it comes to some of these issues. Cause I'm like, I don't give a shit whether your dad likes me or not. You're my friend. And if now if you don't want to kick it, that's cool. But something my grandpa always told me is like, and my grandmother, everybody ain't gotta like you, boy.
Yeah.
You have to like yourself. That's it. That's the only person who owes you So people are people, people have their preferences, and as long as they're decent citizens in the community, why are you trying to force them to be down with a thing that for whatever reason they're not down with? As the years went on, I became one of Dennis's dad's favorite guys, but it wasn't because I was trying to be anybody that I wasn't. I just didn't let stuff like that ever affect me because just seemed unnecessary. Like such a time to get tripped up over stuff like that, So, and I think a lot of people in the 80s moved like that. If not on racial grounds, then look at the TV shows and the humor that was going on, at that time that we all just doubled over in laughter. And a lot of the jokes were on us, be it you be black or white, you're either Archie Bunker or you're George Jefferson. They're both barking, all kinds of crazy stuff. You got, all those sitcoms were so important because they just, because they just could they made you laugh at yourself, and you happily did, you know.
Yeah.
And it brought us together. And you go to school the next day. Did you see that one episode? Blah 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 blah. And I don't know, man. I like to say the '80s were the best in probably in world history. You know.
I agree 100%, man. I love the 80s. I wouldn't mind. I often say in my live streams, hey, 1988, 1985, if you want to come back and get me, I'm here. I'm standing on the curb with my suitcase. Come get me. Because shout out to my man Gabe. He showed me a picture last week. We're doing a live stream, and he showed me the marquee from a movie theater in 1987. It had Full Metal Jacket, Predator, and I can't remember what the other one was, but it was just a classic banger of an action movie. I mean, I was like, we lived in a time where those three movies came out on the same weekend.
Yeah, dude.
It's just the 80s are just the greatest, man. They really are. And if I went back, I wouldn't be mad. I would live out my existence in the 80s perfectly fine, man. And you were talking about this. It's a mixture of tough skin and just not caring about what people think who aren't down with what you're doing. You know, you can join this movement I call my life, or you cannot. Either way, I'm gonna keep moving. So, but what happened? When did we take that thick skin off and hang it up? When did we start caring about what? It's almost like if you don't believe in it, it doesn't exist. When did that happen? What happened?
I remember someone flipped some type of a switch because it happened on a dime, Jericho. And I think this stuff probably happened as recently as, I don't know, maybe within the last 10 years. I mean, like even if you go back 15 years, and I remember life very vividly 15 years ago, and I don't remember our society generally just being this soft, you know, where everyone has to, you know, we all used to be punk rockers, man. And what I mean by that, I mean, that's what America is. What I mean by that is like, we didn't give two F's. We just, if you can be down with our crew or you don't have to be. And we're not going to hate you because you're not down with us. But and we expect you not to hate us because we're not doing something you want to do. You know, no one was caping for anybody. You just got in your groove and lived it out. And in the last 10 years, that is completely different. I mean, on every level. I you know, my brother, who's a big fan of yours, by the way, shout out to my brother Jay.
Hey, what's up, Jay?
He's a huge he's a huge fan. I think he's got a JG hat, the whole thing.
Hey. Appreciate that, man. Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, man, there was a time when it just seemed that everybody started like finding a reason to be mad at someone. See, maybe that's a thing, man. You know, 15 years ago and going back, people weren't trying to be mad. People are going out of their way, Jericho, it seems, to be mad. They're looking for a reason to point the finger at someone for victimizing them in some way. They're looking for a reason to be upset. And I'm like, well, something must be wrong with your life, because it seems like whenever I look for good, bad doesn't just pop up. I find good in something, you know? But if you're looking for bad, you're going to find it 100% of the time. And a lot of times when you're looking for bad, unlike the other way around, if you're looking for bad, you're never going to see anything good. And this becomes a trend. This becomes something that actually grows. And now I'm looking and now where we are in this moment that we're in now, Jericho, I'm like, well, we're supposed to be the adults in the room. We're from the 80s. Is this my fault? No, because my son's a tough MFer. Okay. Because of his dad. Because his dad's dad. Because of his dad's dad and stepdad and granddads. You know, I just come from the same kind of men that were being produced in America at large 40 years ago. I don't have the market cornered on tough dads. or dads that try to, guide their sons and their kids in general in the right way, whether they were right there with them the whole time or, part-time dad, whatever it was. And even if you didn't see your dad for several years, as I didn't, um, man, you weren't just going to be out there wiling out for no reason, because there was some kind of male figure in your life, be it your stepdad in my case, or your grandpa or an uncle. Someone was going to speak on it and keep your stuff in check. People walking around just trying to be mad now, man. They're like, you going out of your way to, what'd you say? Like, bro, I didn't say anything. What are you talking about? Like, that's the difference. It's become trendy to be mad. It's become trendy to try and blow somebody up for thinking the wrong thing, for saying the wrong thing. And wait, what do you mean thinking the wrong thing? It's my thought. I get to have it.
Yeah, it's in here. It's mine.
It's mine. And, you don't get to tell me my thoughts are wrong, especially if I'm not acting out something illegal, harming you in any kind of way. So that's something that has been heavy on my mind in the last, several years. And, unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot that's going on in the Black community, if you will, that just, I remember Black folks, when I was a teenager, I don't recognize these people right now, and these people, pardon me, I don't mean to sound like that.
These people. Yeah, you're right, man.
These are not my aunts and uncles who love this country with all of its warts and flaws and stinky parts and all the nasty stuff and all the bad things that happened. And, they still, 100% loved this country so much. You never even had to, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah. That wasn't a question.
It wasn't a question, prayer was going to be first and foremost, and pledge allegiance to the flag is going to be right after that prayer, because you were happy about the fact that regardless of all the details, you put your hard work in and something really good came out of it. Yeah. You're a homeowner of a big old house. Everybody in your family's doing good. And the ones that don't want to do good, people weren't chasing them down. I've got cousins who, didn't do very well, but they've got the exact same, blood in their veins that I do. We're all related by blood that way. And they just chose a different path. Well, all right, that's on you, player. Yeah. The rest of us are going to do our thing. I've got that are extremely successful, even more so than me. My cousin Kendall's an air traffic controller. My brother Jay's a teacher. These are people who actually did go to college and do it that way. And there are more people in my family that are like that than not, and it's just the choices that people make about where we are as a society right now, where people just don't want to laugh anymore. My thought has always been that there's a very thin line between laughter and tears. A lot of times they run right next to each other. Sometimes they cross over, and it's just what you choose to make of a situation. Some things are unavoidable, death, physical pain, loss of some sort, but the rest of it, especially if it's just words, you could just as easily laugh at that. I remember one time I said something to my dad about this dude when I was in high school. I worked with when I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's, and I also worked at a pizza place. And I thought that the manager of this place, who was also the owner, actually, I got it into my head for some reason after a few weeks of working there that he must be racist. It's the one and only time I ever said anything like that. He just, he seemed like he liked everybody else and just didn't like me for whatever reason. He was always kind of cold to me or whatever. And I remember telling my dad that, and my dad was like, "You think he's racist? Is he paying you every 2 weeks?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." "Well, who cares if he's racist?" For some reason, he's paying you, a Black kid, but he's racist. Does that really make sense? And that was the last time I ever said anything that stupid in my life. And that small little example has never left my mind in my entire life, Jericho. That's all it's the 80s, so everyone's got their languages and the way that they use certain racial slurs back in the 80s and stuff. And my dad certainly had, We all did, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
He's like, yeah, that dude's paying you for some reason. He's paying you fair too. It ain't like he's, you know, taking a cheap shot at you. He's like, he likes you enough to put you on the clock, son. So I tell you what, when he's done with you, he'll let you go. And that was, and I never looked like that ever again. I've had, even in my radio career, I've had people that were pretty tough, program directors that were pretty tough. And I can think of them right now. And going into it, they weren't trying to make a friend out of me. They were trying to make me a better radio personality.
Yeah, and make their radio station run the way it needed to run and sound the way it needed to sound. I right when you said that, man, I thought of my first program director I ever had, Dennis Martinez.
Oh my God, that's my man.
Dennis Martinez.
Martinez, is that, I work with him.
Yeah, and this is back in probably 2004.
Yeah,
this is before he dropped a bunch of weight and stuff.
Yeah, good.
And he did cool dude.
The K1 for a minute.
Yeah, so I'm an intern, right? I'm the lowest man on the totem pole, and we had a concert going on, and he had me, all right, hey, go do this, do that, and he gave me a little radio, so going back and forth. Yeah. He goes, and my on-air name was Rambro. He goes, hey, Rambro. He goes, I was walking away. He goes, hey, Rambro. I turn around. He goes, put a little hurry the fuck up on it. And so, I popped two, and I did what I was supposed to do. And I remember having a moment where I thought, is he being mean to me? Or is he that's just the way he is? And that's how he is with people. So I started looking, and it's kind of how he was. But he kept giving me responsibility, and he kept giving me more responsibility. Hey, Rambro, go over here. I started working with the artists and, getting things they needed and work with people on the stage. So fortunately, again, through my dad, who told me a lot of the same things I'm sure your dad told you when you were with him, and Rob told you when you were with him. Look, man, it doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't like you, you're still here working, and he's giving you more responsibility. So if he doesn't like you, he's not good at showing you he doesn't like you, because he keeps giving you things to do. So, and it doesn't matter if he went home and put on a white hood and started professing all the things he hates about Black folks. I don't live with them. I don't see that. So I can't be concerned with that. That doesn't matter to me. In this world of radio that we're dealing with each other in, everything's fine. So that's just how you have to look at it. You can't worry about what people think about you. Just look at how they treat you. As long as they're treating you with respect, man, who cares? You're gonna mess up a good opportunity worrying about stuff that you have no business worrying about.
Trying to control people's thoughts.
Yeah, that's theirs. They have them. We've all had real messed up ones come through our minds before, and that's just the way it is. And that's where they should stay. A lot of thoughts should stay in your head, and as long as they do, it's a problem.
One of the things that I'm always amazed at when I think about where we are today in our society, in our country, versus where my grandpas came from, both of them, Vicksburg, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee. Bro, I mean, Jericho, think about being a young black man in your late teens, in the mid 30s, in that situation.
In the South.
Bro. And for these guys to get into the Navy, never really getting any glamour jobs. The stuff my grandpa used to tell me that they had him doing was, just
terrible.
Oh my gosh. But it's funny because he would come out of it, 30 years later when he retired or whatever, with these same guys that he came up with, being his best friends, and all the accolades and awards both my grandfathers earned while their time in the Navy. And then after they got out of the Navy and got into public service life, my grandfather worked, my grandpa Morris worked for the CHP, the truck scales over there in Fairfield for a long time.
Okay.
And then my grandpa was a bit of an entrepreneur. He, in San Diego, was buying homes. He was doing that flip thing before that was a word, and while he was doing that, he was franchise owners of Arby's roast beef. And I remember he had all these plaques on the walls of the family room that him and my grandma, their house of, best Arby's roast beef in San Diego, and many, many years in a row. And just, this is a guy with barely an 8th grade education, pulling this off just by putting his one foot after the other and not really worrying about, yeah, you might be in a room full of, or an environment full of people who don't like Black people, whatever. And he just didn't give two craps about it, Jared.
Yeah, it just didn't matter.
Just didn't matter. It just like just didn't matter, and
it didn't exist.
It's almost like it didn't exist for some reason, and he every once in a while he would tell us stories about when they first bought their first home in the suburbs of San Diego. At first they started off in Southeast San Diego, and I don't know what it is about anything that's Southeast, but it usually means
not good. Not good.
But then he flipped that house, and they were to move to La Jolla in the 60s.
Okay, 60s. La Jolla is nice.
Yes, it is, and it was super not Black then. And he told me he saw a little bit of white flight going on, but he, the folks that stayed for whatever reason that they stayed, first of all, he didn't care. He saw that as their loss. But in very short order, they noticed the way that he lived his life. They noticed the way that he treated my grandma, and the way that he raised my mom, my aunt, my uncle, the way that he kept his lawn, the way that he kept his dog. This was an upstanding citizen in the community that was proud of who he was as a person, but also proud of the community that he had worked so hard to be a part of, and became lifelong friends with a lot of those people, but he did not he was always careful to say that sometimes you'll put in work, and you still won't get anything out of it. Well, it's not, there's no guarantee in that. I remember when there was something I heard Larry Elder saying something about that, about, he was telling the story about how his dad would say that he would know if he and his wife had built a man by his son's Larry. I'm messing up really badly, Jericho, but at the end of it was, look, it's not about, it's just about what kind of work you put into it, and if you put the right kind of work into it, if you don't hit that door open, if that door don't open, that one will. But if you just keep on working, one of them's going to come flying open, and that's how you build a man. That's how you build a woman. That's how you build great people, and that's what's totally missing in our society right now, dude. I feel like we're on Mars right now, man. This does not, because I'm so close still to my past, I'm still in bands and stuff. I'm still connected with a lot of friends I went to high school with, a lot of people that I started radio with, and just the way the world was at that time, or at least the way America was. And this stuff that's going on right now is just blowing my mind. This is not what we're used to. This is not what we grew up with.
My stepdad, who raised me, he was a lot older than my mom. So he was born in 1921. So he grew up during
Stepdad was born in 1921.
So he,
damn, I know,
and he's old as hell. He'd be like 100 or 102 now or something.
Right on.
So he, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Ooh, man, it's hot in here. This racism is real.
For real,
okay?
For real.
The things he dealt with and the things he heard, but he always had this almost oblivious attitude. Like it just didn't matter. I have a focus, I have a goal, and that's all that matters to him. And growing up in the South, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the 20s, in the 30s, he still, at 16 years old, signed up to join the military. He ended up going to serving World War II. He ended up going serving in the Korean War. He was an entrepreneur. He owned gas stations when he got out in Seaside, California, owned multiple houses. So I think what's missing for younger people is those examples, because the media and everybody else, you can say what you want, but my experience is I have this old Black dude here who went through it, and he still comes out on the other side smelling like roses. Homes, businesses. I would see how he would interact with his friends, and some of them were white, but they served in the military together. They were friends, and I would see, and as a young man, you learn so much just being around your father and those father figures in your life just by being a fly on the wall and watching how they move. Like your grandfather's neighbors when he moved to La Jolla, they watched how he moved and how he conducted himself, and that went against all the things that they told, or maybe some of their experiences. They learned, well, I guess they're not all like that.
Exactly.
They can be just like anybody else. So when you don't have those examples of men in your life who put their blinders on to all the BS and just focus on what they want to do, you're missing a lot. And you it's almost like kids who don't have a dad in the hood. You're going to fall into the gangs because they're going to whisper in your ear, and you have nobody else in your other ear telling you that that's nonsense.
Right.
So we need strong men in our society to show people this is how you need to ignore the nonsense, ignore people who have no sway over your life, and that toughness, that grit is missing. And so we're susceptible to the nonsense that people, and like you were mentioning, people who are looking for a reason to be mad. And if you're not mad, don't worry, I'll be mad for you.
Whoa,
I'm gonna be your anger advocate. I'm gonna get mad for you, even though you don't know you should be mad and you don't know why you should be mad. Don't worry, I'll be angry for you. And that's so weird. And it brings me to my next question with you. When you mentioned going across the Bay Bridge and going into San Francisco for the first time to do your first weekend in San Francisco, people, this is something you have to experience driving across the Bay Bridge into San Francisco. You feel about this big.
Oh, yeah.
Those buildings are just gigantic.
Yeah.
You're coming over the bridge, over the water, coming into the city. I mean, you just feel like the smallest little fish in the biggest fishbowl in the world. You are here.
Yeah.
You are here. You are in the big city. And then when you get in town, the buildings are casting a shadow because they're blocking the sun. I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
So being in 97, you said you arrived in
August of 97.
Okay, so August of 97, you're getting to San Francisco. How, if you could put it on a scale of 1 to 10, how much has San Francisco changed in those 25 years?
Oh my God. It's how much has it changed? I would have walked damn near anywhere in San Francisco back in 25 years ago.
Any time of day.
Any time of day, and did. We're walking to clubs, whatever, I was really into house music at that time. So, I'm parking my car anywhere, I didn't have an alarm on my little Honda that I had at the time. Because I didn't have the big money just yet, but yeah. So you park your car, you lock it, and you walk off, and you're walking like 3 blocks away because parking was still bad back then as far as where to park. Yeah. So you're parking 3-4 blocks away. You're standing some line, and you finally get in the club, and life is great. And now I would not even dare do that. And it's so, I mean, like, and that's just one small thing. I mean, like, oh my gosh, man, I never saw, like syringes in the street or people, there's always, it's funny, Jericho, you remember when we were kids, there's always been that one wino every once in a while, but it wasn't like him and his whole tribe of winos sprawled out all over the place, just like bodies, like dead bodies, like zombies, just littering up and down an entire block or 3-4 mile radius of an entire neighborhood. I mean, it is a different place, man. I mean, like you want to still take in all the beauty that San Francisco still tends to have, but the anxiety level that you deal with now you're Ubering from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 miles away because you don't want to park there. If you have a car that's that's at all cool, if you have a car with tinted windows, because more often than not, people are busted in the cars and they're doing it because there's no punishment that's going to come down from them from the policies that are in control of San Francisco right now. It's really, really, I hate to say it, man, because I've been on the radio here for such a long time, means that I have a next level connection to it and a deep love and interest for what's happening in the Bay Area and San Francisco in particular. But I'm mad as hell about what I see in the streets, what I see, what the people who are in charge of these things have let it just completely crumble to. I mean, the drugs, the crime, it is nothing like what I remember it to be. And I'm still an outsider. I wasn't born and raised in the city. So many people were born and raised in the city, or at least born and raised right here in the Bay Area. We moved from Vallejo when I was like 2, and the rest of my childhood is in San Diego. So coming here as a young adult in my mid to late 20s, I mean, it was like, man, I totally effing made it, just completely made it, and it was, every inch of it was beautiful, no matter where you were in it. And even the tough neighborhoods of San Francisco still had a charm about them. There was still,
Mhm.
if you will, almost a pride about them, even though they were tough neighborhoods. You don't want to be, know who you are, but even then, the folks that were there were just, they had their understanding. They knew where they were supposed to be and who was supposed to be in their neighborhoods or whatever. But there was still that charm that was there, and even those folks took great pride in it. There was a limit to what people weren't gonna do, And now, dude, this looks like anarchy out here, man. I mean, like, it seems scary. I think it can turn around, though, believe it or not. I believe that it can get, and I hope we're there. I hope we're at the point where it's bad enough for people to be like, this has got to change. We know who's at the wheel of this ship that's sinking. People don't want to lay blame right on a person. I like to keep it real, but for the purpose of the moment that we're in, the people are waking up. The people waking up. They, we for so long have complained about people not connecting the dots. They know exactly where these connections are being made and exactly what's tearing what was once one of the most beautiful cities in the world to one of the third world country, man. I mean, like, how are we letting human beings literally rot on the sidewalk in a pool of their own human waste, and we just step over them? I mean, you wouldn't let a horse do that. PETA would be all over your stuff if you dared let a cat be that way, or a dog. We're letting human beings with still so much potential just literally rot right in front of our eyes in a place that is known for being the most beautiful city in the world, San Francisco. How is this happening 4 miles away from the Golden Gate Bridge? How is this happening right in Embarcadero Center? Right, all these iconic places, that people love San Francisco for, that the people that were born in San Francisco take a ridiculous, fierce pride in their city. And this is what's happening to it. They all remember what it was like not so long ago.
Yeah.
And now where it's at, and people get blinded by their own beliefs, and they don't want to believe what their eyes are telling them, or they don't want to believe that things were maybe better a certain way in the not so distant past, but they're believing it now. My brother and I were talking about, certain events of the last 3.5 years or so, and why certain things weren't taken all the way to the highest law of the land. And I'm like, quite frankly, this, to quote to quote my mom, this was the ass whooping that needed to happen. Sometimes you're gonna learn today.
Yeah.
We've talked and we've talked and we've talked and we've tried to get you to understand, but sometimes words just what you're saying, BB's off a battleship.
That's right.
These words just pew pew pew. They ain't getting in. So okay, we got to go old school. Go give me your belt. My mom used to say.
Oh man.
Go get your belt.
Selecting your own weapon of destruction that's a mental game on another level. I've a few times walked down the road with a pocket knife to cut a switch. Closing my parents' bedroom door, hearing those belts that were hanging on the door handle hit up against the door. Yeah, man.
Ding,
I've been there. I've seen my dad take off his belt in one move and fold it in half.
Yep.
In one move. I've been there.
You know,
we've served on the same front lines of the
yep.
the ass whooping war. I've been there. The last time I was in San Francisco last year, I think it's September, and we're going up a hill. We're going up 7th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the corner of 7th and Mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa,
dude,
are there police here? Like in the city? And I don't mean to shit on the police. Their hands are tied to a certain extent as well. But I'm talking, dude, pants around his ankles, face down in the gutter, multiple people smoking crack, meth, out in the open. There's a car coming.
Yeah.
Out in the open. The sea of people that were in it. It looked like some kind of official building, had pillars in front of it. Real nice building. But out in front of it was just this open air drug market with all of these people. It was unreal, man.
People call it third world country. I don't think they even do that in third world countries.
No.
Third world countries, you have hunger and famine and disease, whatever, but you don't have that. You don't have, people with flies all over, but you don't have that, and that's the most astonishing thing. It's you never get used to it. You never just, like when we were kids, we'd see the one wino in the park, and you got used to him. Because at the end of the day, at least he was still kind of a decent human being. He just wanted to be drunk on the park by himself.
Wine. That's the wine. That's all he was on. Alcohol.
Yeah.
These people.
Yeah. Yeah. These people are on something that's making them, for some reason, forget to pull their pants up after they do whatever they're going to do. Right in the middle of, I've seen it with my own eyes. People who are just lost their mind and just drop them. And, sometimes they assume a position and sometimes they just stand there. I'm like, this is happening in San Francisco. Wow. Someone needs to be held accountable. This is not acceptable. I personally do not live in the city of San Francisco. I live in the East Bay, but the good folks that have lived here for generations and generations, seeing the city that they put their blood, sweat, and tears into, for generations after generation after generation, to see it come to this, and they do not want to leave and they won't leave. But what price will they pay in trying to stand their ground? And that's something that's really scary when you think about it. We pray every day that things get better out here, but like the scripture says, prayer without works is dead. We have to do something about it. And there's a lot of lip service going on. There's a lot of people that are gaslighting, telling you're not seeing what you're seeing, or it's not as bad as what you're saying it is. Or, hey, look what we've done today and look how much better things are. What are you smoking? Because the real here is everyone's in trouble here. Everyone's in trouble. This is not going to get better on its own, unless we get a visit from China, then it'll get better.
Oh, man, hey, yo, hey, what's that? Get that out. Yeah, exactly. You know how it is when you have company that comes over.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true, and that's very sad. But and they they tell you that they'll, again, not naming any names, but the people who are running things there, it's better. What are you talking about? This is down and this is down, but I'm looking down at a human turd at my feet. So whatever part of the city you're talking about, this is getting better. That's not the parts that I visit. This is terrible.
And it really makes you wonder. It almost makes you respect it a little bit. Man, you're a whole badass.
Yeah.
To push that, to gaslight on that level. Dang, dude. If I'd have had that kind of strength in the club back in the day,
with impunity. Like not only am I going to do this, I'm going to stand on top of this soapbox with my bullhorn. Yeah. I'm going to tell all of you this, and you better believe it.
Yeah.
I think we need to wrap this up on a good note, Morris. I think we need to wash the filth of San Francisco off of us and end this on a good note.
Two things.
Please.
One, I like I said a few moments ago, there is hope. I do think people are
Mhm.
waking. I do think people are realizing that, and the people that are realizing this are willing to put in the good work. I think people are even. I think people are even far beyond trying to place blame. They're trying to actually take physical action and making different choices that produces different and better outcomes. San Francisco may be in the worst situation, not maybe, is in the worst situation it's ever been, probably since the 1906 earthquake. Um, where you've got this kind of destruction going
Yeah.
on this level. But one of the things that still it came out of that, 100 and some million years ago. It'll do it again, and I don't think it's going to take another 10 years to turn this back around. The damage just happened in the last 10, 12 years, but I don't think that it's going to take that long to turn it around. The people of San Francisco, it's one of the things it's one of the reasons why I'm still so proud to call myself a broadcaster in San Francisco, because the masses, I say 90%, all right, 75% of the people here get it. And like
Mhm.
you and I were saying earlier, it's not, you may not like the exterior of some things. You may not like the delivery system of some things, but you do like what it delivers to you. You know, one of the, when we think about the way that people talk, people get caught up. People get caught up in images and image,
Mhm.
and people putting on airs and smooth talkers. Well, we've had a lot of smooth talkers, and here we are now. I think people are starting to realize, hey, I don't need a smooth talker. I need someone who can get the job done, and I don't care what he sounds like when he talks,
Yeah.
or how ugly the package is. We're smooth talkers. I always said the devil is a smooth talker. The devil's a good looking dude. The devil's got a head
Mhm.
full of beautiful hair, and he always looks like someone who should be taking care of business. But what is he supposed to look like when he's trying to take advantage of you? We all know to run from a monster. We all know to run from ugliness because it's scary looking. It sounds scary, but
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, the devil's not going to come at you in a way that's going to scare you. You're not going to let him in your house.
Yeah. He needs to get close.
He's got to get close. So he's got
Mhm.
to be smooth. He's got to look smooth. He's got to talk smooth. Got to smell good. Use all the big words, you know, and make his way back in. But I do think people are wising up to those smooth yet wicked ways, and they're going to make difference,
Mhm.
because this city, San Francisco, is 100% too precious to just let fall into the damn ocean. That's not going to happen. These people, the citizens of this city in particular, are already rising up spiritually.
That's awesome.
They're
And
checking.
to hear from somebody who's regularly, in the city every day, to hear that is great.
I see it
So
every day.
you said slick back hair, smooth talker, suit. That sounds like somebody. Anyway,
Oh,
it sounds like somebody, but never mind.
some dude,
Forget,
just
yeah,
some dude.
forget that I said that. Um, so Morris, 1992,
Yes, sir.
you're starting in radio
Yeah.
in Sacramento, California,
Well,
which I live
1990 is in Sacramento. First full time job is 1992 in Stockton.
in Stockton, right? So 1990, Sacramento, a couple years out of high school. Um, you're about to walk into the radio station for your first shift. You're about to begin your radio career. So if Morris from right now was in that parking lot, you could stop young Morris from going in there. You only had 1 minute to tell him something. What would you say to him?
It's a great question. I would say congratulations. You're on the right path for the very first time in your life. I was always a good kid, Jericho. I never got in any trouble. But after I graduated high school, I did have trouble trying to find my groove. Um, I registered at American River College. I registered at Sac City. I registered at Consumnes. I think I registered in every community college in Sacramento. But that wasn't my thing, that just wasn't my thing. My brother was into it, and he was a football star too, so that helped a lot. So I was just barely starting to feel some kind of way about, man, am I going to be okay? I'm just trying to be a rock star, just trying to be, a musician, this and that. But in the interim, I do need some kind of a job. And every single job I got, I just hated it so bad that they were either showing me the door or I was just walking off the freaking job, just, knucklehead stuff like that. When I got to the parking lot of Quad, if me today was talking to that dude right now, I'm like, nah, dude, you're 100% on point. You are not over the target. You are on it. You're standing right on it. So go ahead and walk on in, player. I got you.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and how powerful that would be, man. That really is awesome.
Yeah.
And how good it would be to hear that, especially, trying to find your way and have somebody say, hey man, you got this. You're doing the right thing. You're in the right place. That is so cool, man. That really is.
But I felt that, Jericho, when I got that internship, and when I got the internship, my only responsibility was going to be bulky racing carts, so that new commercials could be recorded on them, driving the quad van, hanging banners, setting stuff up for the big time DJ to go, do his live broadcast, do a bunch of errand boy stuff, and I was happy to do it. It was funny because some of my friends at the time, so Quad, alternative rock, I'm the only black guy in the whole building. So I'm errand boy. And, some of my friends are making a comment about that. I'm like, you call it what you want. These white boys ain't get me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here.
Yeah. I'll be right here no matter what.
I'll be right here. And then, it was the first time outside of what I felt I was as a musician, as a songwriter, that I really felt another level of something proud of myself. When I got my first full-time job at KWEN, I remember being on at the time, right before I moved to Stockton from Sacramento, I was driving down 5 because at the time KWEN was right off of Hammer Lane, and I was driving. And I started, and for some reason, my grandpa Kermit popped in my head, and I had to pull off the road. I became very emotional because I was like, Graham would lose it. He would be so freaking proud of what I just did. He would be so freaking proud, like, dang, boy, you did that. You're about to be on the radio.
Wow.
He would lose it.
He'd be more happy than you.
He would. He didn't have all the greatest successes with his own kids. And I got to respectfully just kind of leave it right there. But me and my brother and my sister, man, we were the apple of his eye, and he put a lot of heavy stuff on us. He had us doing all kinds of laborious, back-breaking work when we were little and stuff. Or you want a quarter for the ice cream man? I guess we going in that backyard again this year.
You about to work harder than the ice cream man.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure. Exactly. But pressure makes diamonds.
That's right.
And it sounds like he did that. So that's great that you had so many positive, powerful, influential male role models in your life. All 3 of you.
Yeah.
So I want to hit you with a little rapid fire. I got 4 questions here.
Okay.
I'm going to give them to you, and you say either the first thing that actually not so much the first thing that comes to mind, but which one you would pick. All right. Okay. So here we go. First one, and these are 80s related because, of course, the greatest decade ever.
Yes.
So own your own station to run any way you see fit. You are the man, or see Prince live.
Run my own radio station and be the man. Like, I'm in complete control.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've seen Prince a lot, but that's only one moment. I believe that if I had that, if I were that, it's not just the music that I'd be in control of or have an influence over, but I do think that my thought on that, radio's still more powerful than people give it credit for, especially the music you're playing, and also what's happening between the records, what we as air personalities do. But yeah, no, I would take that. I don't need to record music with Prince if I had the opportunity to do so. I don't need to be a part of the revolution that I always wanted to be when I was a kid. Knowing the power of radio, being the program director of a radio station, especially in a major market where you've got so much power over influence. People do not understand, or they don't really think about um how impressionable, if that's the word I'm looking for, that what's happening on the radio is to an entire community of people. I have very strong thoughts and opinions about why the radio station that I work for is so successful, and why the people who listen to the radio station that I work for are so happy with what we do. And when we meet them, at certain station functions, why they are so happy to meet us. They do treat us like it's weird. They treat us like rock stars, but then they treat us like family members at the same time,
Mhm.
you know? Um, but at the same time, I can see how the power of some other radio stations or formats, quite frankly, can have a negative effect on the community. Jericho, I can tell you right now, I think right now what's happening on the radio for a certain community is damaging. Um,
Agreed.
I think that we need to, as adults, as parents, take control over what's happening on the radio and what our kids are listening to, because now that stuff is, they just put that stuff on the radio now. Back in the day, you couldn't get NWA on the radio. We had to go
No.
get that, and that was a good thing. But when it's pounded in your head 24/7, 24/7, all year long, and that's the only thing you're hearing, you start to see an entire community of people, the entire generation and community of people start to emulate that very much
Mhm.
the same way, very, very much the same way Prince inspired me, of all things, to wear eyeliner. It's a real thing. If I could have got away with it, I would have. I didn't.
Mhm.
But I think that could be possibly my greatest contribution um, to what to listeners, to what I do as a radio personality, or a radio broadcaster professional. If I had that opportunity to have complete control over a radio station. And that's not saying that what I do now I am not completely happy and filled and satisfied with. I am ecstatic with. I'm truly blessed with all that I get to do as a radio personality here in San Francisco. I think I'm one of the most blessed people in the radio business. And that's not saying that I make the most money. I don't, but I'm the happiest. 100%. No one's happier than me with and that's not to say that they're not happy. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
man, Jericho, I feel so blessed that I feel like I need to figure out how to pay it forward somehow.
Mhm.
But when young people talk to me about my radio career, my experiences, I try to give them as much golden knowledge, not talking down at them, not trying to lecture them, not trying to, OG them to death, Mercury Monday, blah, blah, blah. No, I
Yeah.
meet them where they are and try, when they bring me little questions and stuff, try and give them little nuggets to grow on and empower them with, reasons to keep reaching for what they feel is theirs. Again, we live in a time right now where people are just walking around trying to play a victim and act like people owe them something, and therefore they don't have to work hard to get it. No, you have to work ass hard to get it. And you still may not get it, so you still got to keep at it though. Because one day it will pay off. That's the
It
only
will.
you know but the power of radio to influence an entire community. I would want to make certain decisions that, when you look at the Black community in particular, Jericho, if you think about the music that was being made in the 80s and 70s and 60s and 50s, and on back to the beginning, of Black culture being a thing, it seemed that it seems that it was most, Black culture was defined mostly by three things: our connection to God, our connection to family, and our connection to music. Gospel music is where it starts, then it goes into jazz and into blues, and then rhythm and blues, R&B. And
Mhm.
it seemed like all the songs that were being made, the majority of them had some kind of uplifting message, even in the dance songs. I mean, from Curtis Mayfield, talking about, this is, Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, "This Is My Country." This song came out in the 60s. Why is he making a song like that? Oh, because Black people felt that way, and they were taking pride in it. Earth, Wind, and Fire, all of their songs, were about uplifting and empowering and love within and love of self, not in a not in a sinful way, not in a haughty, proud way, but just, in a way that, celebrates your individuality and what you owe just to yourself and to your family, your immediate family. Aretha Franklin. I mean, all in the way that music shaped Black thought and the way we thought about ourselves. Again, that music was so great and so powerful. Temptations forgot that they were about to perform at a place that they're not allowed to walk in the front to.
Yeah.
And that the Black kids be on one side and the white kids going to be on the other side. And they just like, well, okay, cool. We'll do it anyway because we love what we do and we're having such a great time. And then the white kids couldn't stand it so much. They're the ones who broke down the ropes and came over to the side where the Black kids were. No one was calling for that. No one cared. And Black people did not care about that. That's where my grandparents got that mentality. You ain't gonna like me. I don't care. It's okay. Live how you want to live. Live and let live. Let me live how I want to live, though.
Exactly.
That's what's missing. And I think that if one is to say that one of the most powerful things that shapes Black culture, besides God and family, is music, well, look at what we're missing right now, man. I can't control how people receive or reach out to God. I can't really control how people receive or deal with their family. But I remember some of the love songs that the Isley Brothers used to sing when I was a kid. That was just about him and his woman, a husband and his woman, man and his wife, or Family Reunion by the OJs, which was all about just, I mean, it's a lesson in family,
what is it, the Temptations? Was it the Temptations? Always love my mama.
So that is I'll always love my
mama. She's my favorite girl.
Only get one. It's not the Temptations. It's not the Shy-Lights. I forgot who that is.
It wasn't Harold Melvin, was it?
No, it's not Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Oh my goodness. I'll always love my mom. The Intruders.
Okay.
The Intruders.
Or Al Green, Let's Stay Together.
Yeah. Whole album with songs like that on it. On the other side of that same album, I believe, is I'm Still in Love with You. We boogied off those love songs. They partied off those love songs. Our parents made us on those songs. And then when we were born, took care of us based on how great those songs were. My mom always had those songs playing in the background. My dad, and then my
mom too.
All that, and just it made you want to love your family and love your little kids and then get on them when you got to get on them and still love them up and let them know what that trouble was all about and just that was coming through because it was being pounded into our heads constantly because it was on their stereo by young people. These are people.
I can't believe I'm forgetting this. The title of it was just terrible because I know this song front to back. My mom was a huge Stevie Wonder fan, but the song he made, Isn't She Lovely? I can't believe I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Where there's sound of him bathing his little girl.
Yeah.
It gets no more family oriented than a man making a song about his daughter, Isn't She Lovely? Yeah. And then there's audio from him bathing her, spending time with her, shaping her life, shaping and forming and nurturing that relationship between a father and his daughter. That's just what it was. And it wasn't like, oh, he's making a song about this or they're making a song about that. It's, of course they are. That's what these songs are about. That's what we talk about. That's what they sing about, of course. And now if you would have an artist do that, it would be like, what? He's, can you believe this guy made a song about when it shouldn't be that way?
I remember that. I just, Life is Aisha, the meaning of her.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and that song came out when I was a kid, so I was about 8 years old when that song came out. And listen, an 8-year-old laying in the middle of the living room with headphones on. I'm 8. What little kid's doing that? I am listening to that album front to back. I still have that album on vinyl to this day. And I mean, Minnie Riperton. You mentioned Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass. I mean, and then there was the fun stuff too. Funkadelic, Parliament, Ohio Players. Heaven
Oh man.
must be like this. It must be like, he's talking about heaven must be like this. What are you talking about, Sugarfoot? Oh, he's talking about his wife. He's talking about his girl. Black men celebrated Black women in general, to the point where they compared them to what it must be like if you die and go to heaven. You are the embodiment of that. Come all the way 40 years later, Prince does the same thing. And God created woman. If I had a radio station, there would be, and I'm not saying I'd be playing all old school. That's what I'm saying. It would just be like, instead of all the single ladies and all the to the left, to the why is Black music so mean right now? Mm-hmm. I probably shouldn't go on that tangent, right? It's being what I do, where I do it, who I am, all that. But just fix it, Jericho.
Oh yeah, no problem. Let me go get my magic wand. I'll fix all this. But it's so true, man. It was different. The message was different. Things were celebrated that should be celebrated. Like you said, it's not going to all be old school, but it would all be positive, happy. Music is supposed to, not all the time music, like you mentioned, when your friend passed, that Prince song that you play that really, speaks to you. Yeah. It's not always going to be happy. Sometimes it will be sad. Sometimes it will make you think. Sometimes it will be deep. But I think, like relationships, music should mostly be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a time when it was, there were the songs that weren't were the outliers. And even the ones that weren't still had a message in them, mm-hmm. War, what is it good for?
Edwin Starr, yeah.
Nothing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or, Freddie's dead, but Curtis Mayfield is telling you about why you shouldn't go down this path, mm-hmm. Or even Superfly itself, song sounds like it's glorifying a drug dealing gangster, but he's actually saying no, he's trying to get out of it. He's trying to leave the life behind, and that's the message you take away from that. And that when your dad is 20 years old when that song comes out, as mine was, very smart but very impressionable by that look, the whole bit. It's important for those songs to be able to, for those brothers to have fun with that look, that pimpish look back then, but also, the rest of what Curtis Mayfield is saying is like, that's not really the life you want to lead.
Yeah.
And
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
That was bad that he wasn't here. They weren't glorifying that.
Yeah.
This messed up my mom. It messed up the family.
Yeah.
And also one of the longest intros before they start singing.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think it's going to drop. You're ready to sing. And it's you're like, come on, guys.
Norman Whitfield was on another level with that,
That song is cold, man. Not only the lyrics, but that bass, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo. And then you got the strings coming in.
Real orchestras playing that.
Come on.
There's not a keyboard. There's a real orchestra.
Yeah. Then a studio full of people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I love it. Oh. Okay. So the other rapid fires.
All right.
Goonies or Lost Boys?
Lost Boys.
Same here, man.
The only thing I can't stand about Santa Carla is all the damn vampires.
Yeah. And filmed at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. As a grown up, I'm like, that's the Giant Dipper. Because you grew up around there. You took a field trip there when you were in like 8th grade. You go there every summer. Yeah. Man, that movie is cold. And I found out recently, I didn't know it's rated R. I thought it was PG-13 because an 80s movie PG-13 is like an R movie.
Oh, you still gonna see some stuff.
Yeah, but it's a rated R movie.
Yeah.
What a good one, man. I love the Lost Boys.
That's good.
A-Team or Knight Rider?
For whatever reason, wasn't a huge fan of either of them, but the one that I remember, the one that I remember the most was Knight Rider. By the time Knight Rider and the A-Team are hitting, I'm in my mid-teen.
Oh, you're about to get out of high school. Yeah.
Not quite. I'm still in high school, but I'm not watching much TV. I'm I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm playing guitar or whatever. We're making music, and then we're chasing girls, and barely getting.
Can't compete with that. Ain't a
So
TV show out there that can compete with that.
I pitied a fool who missed out on that.
But I would put Knight Rider up for the coldest 80s intro music ever.
Man. Yeah. And I liked a lot of car TV shows. So if there was a cool car,
that was big in the 80s. Cars, helicopters.
Yeah, all that.
What was it? There's one called Hardcastle in McCormick.
I remember that.
Where it was like this race car driver. Yeah, I mean, it was all about vehicles in the 80s. Vans, cars, helicopters, something.
I still have my Dukes of Hazzard General Lee Hot Wheels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You got to save that. That's one of those things that when you're going through the attic or something, you're like, man, I wish we would have kept those. I wish that's something.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, you got to pass that one down.
Yeah.
That's serious right there.
Still have
wow. All right, so this one here, this is the biggest one here, Morris.
All right.
Vocals only. Prince or Michael Jackson?
Prince.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Because Michael Jackson, he didn't have he wasn't playing instruments the way Prince was, so that's why I said to kind of even the playing field for him. But MJ had some vocals, but you're going Prince with that one, hands down.
So I shoot that out because if you're going to say those two names in the same breath as you did, you're talking about an era. You're talking about the 80s. It's so funny though that you asked me that question, because literally on my way home last week, I threw on Michael Jackson, the little dude. We're talking, Got to Be There, that Michael, Ben Michael, Music and Me Michael, Jackson 5 Michael, Could It Be I Stayed Away Too Long? That kid
boy can sing, man.
That kid right there, man, will just blow your socks off.
Man.
When you get a sec, Jericho, put together a playlist of just Michael, age 15 and older, or age 15 and younger. Matter of fact, maybe 14 and younger. Just listen to that Michael's voice. This kid is probably the best young singer that has ever sang a note of music. Sure, there may be some out there with better vocal range or whatever, but just this little kid was singing like a grown ass man. Like you don't get taught the runs that he was doing. Joseph and his belt, or whatever you want to say, he didn't beat that. I mean,
he tried.
Yes, he did. Not for lack of trying. But that's because Michael was too busy singing, so he's messing up the dance steps. So okay, we can teach you that. But a run like the beginning of Who's Loving You by a Kid. I was mad when En Vogue tried to do it.
but I think they did it the most justice out of anybody who's tried to tackle that since.
Especially when I was looking at the video. Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah, you probably didn't even hear the sound. Like Saving Private Ryan when the bomb went off and it was just.
Yep.
You didn't even hear what they were saying, man. I'm right there with you.
I loved that video, and I loved En Vogue so much.
But it took a group of people to get close to what that young man was doing. I mean, he was, young Michael was.
Oh, young Michael was killer. One of the best ever. Not one of the best, the best. I hate to call him a child vocalist at that time, but what else could you compare him to? Just the best. I mean, man, what he had was, this kid was truly gifted. I mean, it was, and it moved me so much that I was thinking, dang, when Joseph and Catherine really heard him do that again, they that's our kid, and he sings like that. I mean, you got Tito, he's good on the guitar. You got Jermaine, he's good on the bass. You got, the rest of them that are doing all their thing. But this guy over here, and they're all dancing, they all look good. But when this guy sings, he doesn't sound like anybody else, and we know we've got gold in our hand, literally, So when it comes to Michael Jackson, one of the greatest, singers ever to ever live, I still give it to Prince, because Prince, I think, was still able to do more with his adult voice than Michael Jackson was. You know, Michael Jackson went from the whispery, um, um, tell him that it's human nature, very soft, you know, um, to the scream thing, you know, he was just, you know, bad, I'm bad.
Yeah.
You know, Prince, could go from a low, you know, baritone, almost Luther Vandross type of vibe to an almost robotic, weird, nasally thing. And then those falsettos, dude, Bee Gees couldn't even touch him, you know, and they were the king of falsetto.
Oh yeah. I gotta throw Off the Wall in there in Michael's defense. Because I think that's and literally it is between the Jackson 5 years and the Human Nature, you know, the Thriller album, but Off the Wall, man. Working day and night.
Those are
man, that
those
was
are the songs
cold.
those are the songs that you just never did not hear on the radio every single day. It's but it's also those album cuts on Off the Wall. It's the falling in love that's making me high. It's the being in love. He's actually doing a duet. It's not listed as a duet, but it's actually a lady who actually did a lot of session work and a lot of duet work with Michael Jackson. And I hope I'm saying her name right, Saida Garrett, that's singing with him on that song. The album cuts on Off the Wall are those two albums, Thriller and Off the Wall, but those album cuts just kill me to this day. You know, she's out of my life.
Oh man.
What you gonna do with that, Jericho? What you gonna do with that?
I can't. There's nothing I can do. It's perfect. What was the one he did with Paul McCartney?
They did two outstanding songs. I love them to this day. One was on Michael Jackson's album and one was on Paul McCartney's album. The one on Michael's was The Girl Is Mine.
Oh, she's mine. Dude,
Yeah.
he shit on Paul McCartney, and I mean it was Michael's track, but Paul McCartney, and you know, he's Paul McCartney, but
Yeah.
I think Michael outshined him on that one, and probably by design. You know,
but they came back for another one on Say Say Say. Remember that?
Yeah.
Say, ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, I love that song. That song gets lost. You know, people talk about Say Say Say. You never ever worry, and you never shed a tear.
Dude, but you can make an album just off of his huge hits, like his mega worldwide, everybody knows huge hit. You can make a whole album just off the super Michael Jackson bangers that he came out with in the 80s, man. But that I think is a battle that I will gladly enjoy until the end of time. The Prince, Michael Jackson. You know, I wouldn't call it an argument, but debate, maybe. You know,
it gets both camps fired up. It gets both camps fired up. But when I'm asked the question like that, I try to give, you know, and I say it so quick, it almost sounds dismissive, and I'm not. That's why I go into deep detail about but Michael Jackson, the 70s. You know, the Jackson 5 Michael Jacksons, and then the Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, or Michael Jackson and the Jacksons, however they called it. You know, there's a lot of, you know, I wanna be where you are. Oh, it's just like, wow, dude, you're just
little kid.
Yeah, you know, just killing it, man. Just one of the, it just puts me in a great mood whenever I hear, you know, those vocals and just great songs, man. Just great songs when R&B meant that, you know, when you thought about black music, when you thought about soul music, it meant that. I was feeling some kind of way a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to know, you know, when was it that Billboard stopped calling it R&B charts or R&B soul charts and started calling it the hip hop R&B charts?
Yes.
And it means something to me. But that date was December 1999 when they fused hip hop with R&B. And as much as I love 90s R&B and 80s, I mean 90s hip hop, you know, Tribe Called Quest, you know, De La Soul, Souls of Mischief, you know, Digital Underground, I mean, all that stuff, even the gangster stuff, you know, that stuff was all good because it didn't take over it didn't eclipse. It's so funny, Jericho. 1 minute you could be listening to Straight Outta Compton, and then when you're done with that, throw on Anita Baker. And we were teenagers doing that, you know. But when they merged them like that, I feel like hip hop kind of eclipsed R&B, because sometimes even with the greatest R&B songs, you didn't get it the first listen, maybe even not even the second listen. But with hip hop, it's just instantaneously. It's just the beat and the rhyme. And if
Mhm.
you're gonna lean on that, you get addicted to that quick fix of music, if you will, and forget about the slow burn of a Sade record. You
Yeah,
know?
the Anita Baker and Sade aren't there. They've been eclipsed and swallowed up by hip hop, and so much of like anything else is good and bad. There's
Yeah,
good rap and there's bad
right.
rap. You got backpack rap, you have socially conscious rap, and all
Yeah,
this different kind of stuff. It's not all drinking 40s and shooting people with my same
right,
skin tone,
right.
but that other stuff, the good stuff, is washed away. And around '99 is when they really saw the monetary potential of hip hop. You're
Yeah,
getting into you're about to crack the 2000s, DMX and Jay Z
yeah,
and all these huge
yeah,
superstars, these huge tours where
yeah,
they're making the Up in Smoke tour and all that stuff.
yeah.
So they're making huge, never before seen money off of hip hop. So it was a bad decision, I think, because you can have the bad. You can have dessert sometime. It's
Amen.
okay, but you got to have the square meals in there most of the time.
You can't
The
live on
protein, the starch, and the veggie.
you can't live on ice cream and cake. You can't. As delicious as it is, you
It's
can't
bad for
live
you.
on it. It will literally make you sick.
Yeah,
It'll put pounds on, but you'll be sick first if you eat a whole cake and ice cream, like right
yeah.
now. You're physically ill. You have to go to the bathroom the whole bit, and then it'll put pounds on that you don't want. It's the same thing with hip hop and R&B. You know, one is a definitely a necessary part of our culture, but it needs to be in its proper place. And when you all of a sudden force feed people a steady diet of just the unhealthy, sugary, soda filled carbohydrates, preservatives that hip hop has unfortunately become, because it hasn't even always been that way, but certainly is now in some most stuff. Uh,
Oh man.
what are you going to, when you're constantly pounding that into people's heads? What is an entire community of people going to do? And oh, well, everybody buys hip hop. In fact, white kids buy hip hop more than black kids. Yes, thank you. But white kids and other kids, other races don't see themselves doing it in
Mhm.
mass. So they don't try to become that in mass. So they actually still can have a nibble and put it back and enjoy it and it not affect them. But when you got, especially now when we live in this culture where all of a sudden we got to, oh, I need people who look like me. What? What does that even mean?
That's
You know,
stupid.
you know, people who feel like they have something in common with someone just because we share the exact same skin tone is ridiculous. And
Yeah,
no one's being affected by that imagery more than black kids, and that's a fact. We've
and
got
I think
white kids ain't doing drive-bys on white kids. Asian kids, at least not to the level we're
yeah,
black. You know,
I
they just
think
go ahead.
I think the biggest reason that white kids and other kids you don't see that in is because, and these are the numbers. Don't shoot the messenger. But those kids come from two-parent homes. They have two people in their lives saying, now, Johnny, that's enough of that. Put that down. Let's come back to reality. They're not bumping it like dancing with Johnny. They're
Right,
not rapping the words with Johnny.
right.
They're telling him, hey, snap back. That's entertainment. That's nothing to model yourself after. That's nothing to emulate. That is entertainment. And I even find, again, a child of the '90s in my adolescence. I listened to a lot of rap music growing up, and some of it was
Yeah,
bad.
heck
And
yeah.
even now, I listen to it. I find myself needing to come up for air. I need to listen to some R&B for a while. I need to
That's so
listen.
true.
I need to. Oof, that
That's
was that
true.
was suffocating. I need to take a deep breath. And but for a lot of kids, there is no deep breath. It's all hip hop. It's all the bad, terrible stuff that nobody should be in an echo chamber with that kind of stuff bouncing around.
And
Nobody.
and you and I in our generation, and when we were much younger, teenagers and all that, we man, it was so easy to come up for air and go get a bite of Sade or Anita or Whitney or Janet or Shaka.
Sade.
Sade. Yes, Sade. Uh,
Mm.
and that's just a small thing, but yet they still represented R&B. It was easy for us to just switch it over there. Kids don't, there's no alternative but that now. And that is really that really makes me sad that, and when black kids in particular don't have an easy outlet. White kids can buy, hip hop anytime that they want to, and if they like it, cool, that's fine. But 2 seconds later, they could switch that off and throw on, you know, uh, you know, Justin Timberlake, or Taylor Swift. It's just that easy. They don't have to stay there because they don't see any other place for them to go. And not just the pop artists, but the rock artists and the country artists and everything in between that, alternative, whatever. Um, Generally speaking and in mass, the majority of black kids don't have an alternative to that stuff to listen to. And even the newer R&B is still trying so hard to emulate the content of some of today's pop.
They don't have a rapper on it. They'll have a rapper on doing a verse on the R&B song.
Yeah.
So you never truly get away from it unless you have somebody in your life to say, that's nonsense. That's not the life you need to live. Like I said, we're listening to rap by my older brother. He's 4 years older than me. So he was in the rap, NWA, EPMD, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if we were caught with contraband, if we were caught with rap music that had a parental advisory on it, my mom was all about MC Hammer and all that kind of rap. And not saying anything bad about MC Hammer.
Yeah.
But he didn't cuss. He was clean
right.
rap. Will Smith, stuff like that, they were clean rap. So if we got caught with something that had a parental advisory on it, thank you, Tipper Gore. We were in trouble. It was going in the fireplace. My mom came home one day. I got the stereo going in the living room. She wasn't supposed to be home for another 2 hours. I hear that key in the door, like, uh-oh. I turn around. My mom, much like your dad, she walked up to me calmly and said, give me him. And I had just been visiting my aunt in LA, got all these CD 40 of Warren G. Outkast, Dr. Dre is when he dropped that stupid Aftermath album. And was it what was that stupid song he had on there? I don't even remember. But in the video, he's like,
I'm thinking of the Chronic 2.
No, this was 96. It had the mushroom cloud on the cover, and he had the title or the single off of the album. I remember the video. He was wearing like a white James Bond tuxedo jacket. Anyway, it was a terrible album. But my mom says, give them to me. And I handed it. It was like 6 of them, fat stack. The CDs were $18 a piece. And she grabbed them all and threw them in the fireplace and closed the door. And I watched them just turn into this melting ball of plastic. But you had people in your life where that's not the stuff you need to be listening to.
Right.
So we always had somebody tethered in reality letting us know, you might listen to it, but if I catch you, you're in trouble.
Right.
Because that's not the business. But now, those people are gone.
Now, that was the measure your mom took, and good for her for doing so. But not all people's moms responded that way. My brother, who's 5 years younger than me, my brother, who's 5 years younger than me, had no problem playing Too Short at full volume. My mom never checked him on it. Like I was always afraid, like, hey, turn it up. When I come back to stay with my mom and my stepdad and my brother after graduating high school, he'd be playing that stuff. I'm like, dude, mom can hear that. Oh, she don't care, and she didn't. She was not moved by it, and oddly enough, neither was my stepfather for some reason. But still, Jay knew right from wrong. We knew that this is ridiculous entertainment. Too Short to tell you to this day, this is entertainment. This is not the way to live. He may not say it on a platform, but at the end of the day, I met Short a couple times. He's a really, really cool dude. But back then, that stuff was like looking through Playboy magazines or something like that. And even though it wasn't what my mom liked, she didn't come down on my brother for playing it. I just couldn't. Just because I just couldn't, but my bro just did not have that filter quite yet. But at the same time, okay, when he's done with that, he'll throw in Kool and the Gang, some Cameo, some Michael Jackson, Thriller, So it's because the rest of our world was not completely shaped by that one genre of music. We always had an outlet. We always had somewhere to go. My brother loved Anita Baker just as much as he loved LL Cool J, you know, or Two Live Crew.
Oh yeah,
actually,
that's
my
too
mom
short in a group form.
my mom actually did. I think my brother told me she did. Like he was playing, "Hey, we was," and she heard that.
Yeah.
That did it.
You had to draw the line
Yeah,
somewhere.
that did it.
Yeah, you're right, man. There's a lot of yin and yang, when we were coming up, and now it's just all yin.
Yeah.
There's no balance to that. There's nothing else. It's just all garbage, man. And that's really another one of the things that we need to change and we need to stop, if these future generations want to make it, because that kind of music comes along with a pretty violent lifestyle that, some people won't survive. So, but we're gonna solve that world problem in our next interview.
I'll be right
here. What a great time I had. I hope you did too.
I know, been a pleasure.
I know that my viewers will.
I've been following you for a few years, Jericho, and it was a pleasant surprise when I stumbled across one of the first videos of you that I saw, and this was probably about 4 years ago. And two things, I was just blown away that someone else was saying those things, and thinking those things, and that it wasn't just me and my brother. As far as black men are concerned, I'm like, bro, you gotta hear this dude Jericho. Oh my God, man, this dude's saying the stuff, and that's something that we really, it's been a breath of fresh air. The other thing was, when I was trying to figure out your age, I'm like, so he's got to be my age, but then I find that no, you're quite a bit younger than me, man. And I guess I have one question for you before we go, as my phone is warning me that I'm losing battery here. I know why I think the way that I think, Jericho, because I was full on there. I'm 10 years older than you, bro. Full on. Don't tell your age. But I know
I won't.
You said it. So think about that. I know why I think the way that I think, and I know about my awareness because I have a certain what do you call it, man? When I have something to bounce it off of. I can have something to compare it to how great things were before where they are. You were quite still a little kid when I was enjoying the world the way it was. You weren't old enough to enjoy all the things I was enjoying, all of it. And I guess my one question for you is, why do you think the way that you think? Like, it's you're closer to millennial than you are Gen X. I don't know. You might be smack dab in the middle. What's your awakening to all this, man? I mean, you're doing fantastic work, Jericho. I can't tell you how much I really dig what you're doing and how much I admire you, man, and what you do. And I share your videos all the time, man. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing. You're doing far more important things than I am. But why? Like, what's your impulse? Or I would want to do what you do if I could guarantee my income, but I can't. But I admire you, man. And is there a way that you can articulate what made you, get on this and start speaking about it the way that you do, man? Especially at your age, you talk like someone who's quite a bit older than you are, but you're way younger. I mean, on not just politically, but even the way you deal with your kids, man. The way you talk about your son and your daughter, and your beautiful wife. It's amazing, dude. It's awesome.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the kind words. I think that I am the way I am for a lot of the same reasons you are the way you are. The upbringing, I had a dad, my stepdad, my real dad. He was never in the picture, but I had a stepdad from when I was little. He was in the Army. My mom was in the Army. I had structure. I had discipline. I had support. My parents never, fell for the banana in the tailpipe. It's not your fault. There's some white man who's behind the scenes pulling all the strings and controlling your life. My parents never put that burden on me to have to shrug it off in the first place. Amen. I have no red pill moment. There was never a need for one. And I think that I seem older than I am because of my stepdad, who was a lot older. I was raised almost in a different era, even though I wasn't really there physically, just the way life was, the lessons I was taught, the work that I had to do. You know, like you mentioned, hey, you guys want to go see the ice cream man? Well, we got to pull every weed in this backyard, like hard work. You know, my friends would complain, oh, I got to do chores. I got to take the trash out. Man, we know my chores are, we had 10.5 acres. We had pigs and chickens and geese.
Oh, yeah.
I worked. I split wood. You know,
Yeah.
I slopped hogs. I had hard work, man. So I think being raised by an older person kind of made me older. I've always been told my whole life that you're so mature for your age. I thought you were older, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was, you know, be quiet when older people are talking. Listen, you know, and I wasn't always like that. My parents told me the same shit 50,000 times a week to put things back where you get them. Don't talk when grown folks are talking.
That's right.
A lot of it stuck. So when I became an adult, I became what they told me to be when I was a kid. You know, and I told my mom, I'm so glad that I told my mom when I was about 14 years old. I said, Mom, I get it. You know, I hear you. I know you got to tell me things a million times, but I get it, Mom. I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be okay. And I ended up being, that's how I am. I put things back where I get them. I keep my word. I listen to people. If there's, to this day, I have neighbors who are retired. When they sit around and talking, he'll invite me over to the garage. You know, he got the door open, drinking beers.
Yeah.
And I'm a fly on the wall. You can learn from older people and just listening. People, if you listen, you'll find out a lot about people, good or bad.
That's right.
So I think it's my upbringing, my parents, and really that's it. Because everything we are goes back to our childhood.
That's right.
It was a long time ago, but it has a profound effect on us, and it really shapes who we are. So all accolades go to my parents, you know, dealing with my hard-headed ass and coming up to the school because I won't listen. My dad sat in my math class my freshman year of high school from Monday through Friday for the whole entire class because I called into a radio station. It was Damon Bruce on KMBR 680. And he said, tell us your embarrassing stories. And I told him, you know, much more detail than I did here. But I told that story, and he told the guy, he said, stop taking calls. That's the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard. I was like, bruh. And my dad, like your dad, overalls, hat.
Yeah.
My dad didn't give a shit what anybody thought about the way he looked. It was humanly impossible for him to care less what people thought about him. So my dad was up in there, dirty hat that he probably got for free.
Right.
And man, it wasn't the last time I ever got in trouble, but it was the last time in Mr. Niazman's math class that I ever got in trouble.
That's right.
That's why, man. I think that's why. And I'm glad that there are people like us, like me and you, who have that upbringing, who can hopefully bring that into this day and age and impart that on our kids.
Yes.
So that maybe they can take that and give it to their kids. So this doesn't die. This generation, the way we were raised, doesn't die and doesn't get lost in all this nonsense.
I hope you take comfort in the fact that I have raised my son, who's now 23, exactly the way I was raised. But with just because, you know, I'm a new generation, I can do a couple of things better, but not a lot than the way that I was raised by the most essential people in my family. And he shows every bit of that. He's still his own self, you know, but I just, you know, it's great how just I was able to pull from so many of my own life experiences and put that on my son, and he's the man he is today, you know, behind that. So it's just great to see people younger than me, be it someone as young as my son or someone who's not as young as him, but just, you know, man, you're my age, but I mean, I'm older than you, but you're saying stuff that most brothers my age aren't saying, Jericho. And that's why, you know, that's why my brother and I, when we discovered you, latched on to you. It was great. You know, we never need to be these people, oh, you know, we need to see more people like us doing this, saying this, doing that. But it's just, there's something, I hope you can understand, Jericho, there's something about, well, we've kind of always heard some of these things from people we don't know, but they're usually not brothers. And we're seeing so many bad things in our community, right? In our community, if you will, for whatever that means. It's great to just discover that, man, there's a whole culture, there's a whole world of Jerichos and Candaces and Brandons and of course, you know, and then I stumbled across, you know, Thomas Sowell and John McWhorter and Glenn Lowry and you're in there with him, Jericho. You're in there doing Bob Woodson. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Coleman Hughes, Jericho, you're in there with these people, man. Congratulations and thank you for what you're doing, bro. I'm honored to be in this thing with you.
Man, I thank you. That is high praise, man. And I appreciate you being here, taking the time to hang out with me. And I hope that more people know that you're not alone. There are a lot of people out there with sense who see this nonsense. Like you were saying earlier, there's people in the city who are waking up to this, and that is great. And that's what I want to leave with people is a message of hope. It's going to be all right. Again, Morris Knight, I thank you. He is a radio personality, a father, a brother, a husband, and an American.
That's right.
Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Rob.
Yep.
Just thank you. All those people played a part in bringing us here today.
That's right.
So I appreciate you. You guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share this video. And where can people find you? If somebody's cruising through San Francisco and they want to hear Morris Knight's voice, what station do they tune into?
They can hear me on the radio Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on 96.5 KLYT. And they can also hear me on our classic rock sister station, mostly in the South Bay on 98.5 KFOX.
There you have it, people. Now you know where you.
Oh, that's right. And on Saturday nights on 102.9 KBLX. That's Throwbacks and R&B. I only do Saturday night.
There's no excuse of why you can't get more of Morris Knight. And you can find it online. That's the beauty of it. So you don't have to be going through to pick up the radio station. If you are, great. But if not, check it out online. Support this man. Let him know that you saw him here. That would be great. And of course, this is Green's House. As I told you, here I talk to amazing people with interesting stories. Today was no different. Morris Knight, I thank you very much. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, all that YouTube jargon. We out.